You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. Good morning, America. What is happening? Welcome to a very early edition of the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. We got a great show for you today. This is super important, what we're going to be talking about, because this also is kind of culminating something that I've been saying for a really long time, for at least several months. But we're going to get hard and heavy into that. But I do want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. We got Disney up, Boiler up, we got Lace, we got Patches, we got Elf Toe and Mackenzie Moore, Lori Matthews, and many more. Make sure you guys that are just tuning in, make sure you say hi over in the chat. And if you will, make sure you like, subscribe, and also down in the description below, there is a link. If you would like to become a member and support this channel in that way, make sure you do. We're about the truth. If you don't want the truth, if you want wild fantasies, if you want conspiracy slop, go somewhere else. But this channel, we're here to tell you the truth and nothing but the truth. And that's what matters, folks. We're losing our country to lies. And we're not going to sit here on our hands and not do anything or say anything about it. So, again, we are going to be getting into some of the issues that we see with Candace Owens. And look, I've been saying this for a really long time. Going back to about late October, November-ish, when I first saw what Candace was doing, I knew this was something larger. But even I underestimated it. I knew that she was telling lies and that she was damaging this country in ways that it wasn't as innocent as it looked. And there was a lot of people like, Gary, why are you doing this? What are you saying? Like, you know, just ignore her. And I saw the disinformation. And then, of course, what really focused my attention was the Mitch Snow, that original, I think it was December 8th. And I saw the narrative that she went with, and I saw how engineered it was, and I saw the amount of information operations tactics that were built into that. And I was like, and it was completely different than anything she had done before. I don't know where all that came from. I don't know how that was, who fed that to her, or maybe she did it herself. I don't know. But what I'm telling you is that there was tactics and techniques built into that you do not see anywhere else. And from that point on, I was like, no, something is crazy going on here. And that was before we ever thought that we would see her kind of dovetail into the Tucker Carlson, Elizabeth Lane now, even Megyn Kelly. And she was already in this orbit with Ian Carroll, with Baron Coleman. And I already saw how systematic, how much cooperation was taking place. And I knew it was big. But I didn't necessarily think it would get to this point. So just the other day, we had Candace Owens come on her podcast. And Jen, if you will play this for us, you make that big screen, play that for us. She basically told her audience that she suddenly was going to Russia out of the blue. And folks, I want you to understand, there's a level 4 travel advisory to Russia. Do not travel advisory to Russia. You do not go to places, and you definitely don't bring your family. So immediately once I knew that, I knew this had to be coordinated through the Kremlin. She had an invite from the government itself. So let's play this and see what she said, because she lied. She just straight up lied once again.
Next week, I'm actually going to St. Petersburg. I'm so excited for that. I have been wanting to go to St. Petersburg for a very, very long time, just as a Christian in general. Just to see some of those cathedrals and churches. And we're finally making it happen, a family trip. And so that's happening. So I'll be off air for an entire week. I can't wait for the headlines. People saying I guess I'm funded by Iran and Russia and probably Pakistan. Obviously not sure. My husband's been to Russia quite a few times because he fishes. And Europeans just get to go everywhere. They just travel there. For them, it's a short flight. And when we got married, I was like, man, I would really love to get out there. We're finally making it happen. So I will be completely off air. Also, if you are watching the show right now.
So there we have it, folks. She's just going there for a vacation. So just a family trip. Well, I want to go ahead and bring on Ryan Mauro, because immediately after I heard that, I went on and said, hey, this is fishy. What is she doing in Russia? This should not be taking place. And then probably like an hour later, Ryan broke the story of what's really going on with all that. Ryan, welcome to the show. And if you will, just take a real quick moment, tell everybody about yourself, who you are, what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So, sorry, getting the mic on.
Right.
My name is Ryan Mauro. So I'm on X at Ryan Mauro, Mauro. My full bio is at ryanmauro.com. And basically, I've been working in the field of, on the civilian side, intelligence since I was 16 years old. That was back in 2002. And then did a lot of media work at places like Fox News Channel. I now work pretty closely with Glenn Beck. And so, but I do a little bit of everything, I guess. It's a little bit of investigative journalism, a little bit of analysis, particularly geopolitical and national security analysis, a bit of intelligence. I've done a lot of work with basically every law enforcement agency in regards to criminal suspects ever since I was a teenager. And Russian intelligence operations is like a thing I studied for fun as a kid. So I have a pretty good feel for when I see something, whether there's going to be some fire around that smoke. And man, with Candace Owens, there was a lot of smoke. And then the fire ended up being bigger than I anticipated. That's for sure.
Well, in a second, I want you to explain to everybody who Alexander Dugin is. But one of the things I realized right off the bat, as Candace was putting out this narrative under the guise of investigating Charlie Kirk, I saw the anti-American propaganda and the anti-government propaganda that was being smuggled in there. And really what it was directed at the Trump administration. And look, anytime, folks, I don't care if it's the Democrats or Republican or some of these voices on either side of this. And we've seen this for a long time. We'll talk about Russia Today, that is constantly now retweeting anything and everything that Candace puts out. They've been doing it with Tucker for a really long time. But I realized the things that she was saying was there to undermine our government and the Trump administration and MAGA itself. And look, anytime that there's an opportunity like that, we're going to have adversaries that start latching onto that and start boosting certain messages, narratives. And I knew that's what was taking place immediately with the bots, with the sock puppet accounts. And you better believe that our political adversaries, I'm sure there are groups like the George Soros, the Singham groups that are latching onto this and they are boosting this. They're paying for bots. They're paying for people to go out there and reshare this stuff down there in the comments fighting it. But you better believe Russia, China, and really and Israel, Iran, as well as any of the other European countries out there that don't want Trump in office. But they don't. Like, the world does not like Trump because the Trump administration is the only administration we've seen in many, many years that actually pushes back on this and actually fights for America to make sure that we're not getting beat economically, militarily, and in every other instance. We have had politicians for years that have sold this country out through terrible trade deals, through all immigration policies, you name it. They do not want Trump to win. They do not want MAGA to win. They would love nothing more. All of our adversaries, political and foreign, they would love nothing more than for us to lose the midterms and definitely for us to lose in 2028 so they can get another stooge of the CCP. Because I've said this, I don't know how Ryan feels about this, but look, the DNC is the CCP. They are. Like, they are so ideologically aligned. They both hate America. They both want to see the downfall and the degradation of America. And that's what they do. That's why the policies that everything that the DNC, the Democrats put out, it just destroys this country. Open borders, rampant socialism throughout this country that is just draining us dry. We're now close to $40 trillion in debt. That's where we're going. It is engineered for America to fail. And Ryan, if you will, let's talk a little bit about Dugin, because he's kind of been a key player in all of this. We've seen him on Tucker Carlson. We've seen him on other political circles. We've seen him on other podcasts. Talk a little bit about Dugin, how this plays into it, and then we'll talk directly about Candace Owens and what she's doing in Russia.
Sure. So when it comes to intelligence operations, the Russians are really good at some things, really bad at others, like you see in Ukraine. But when it comes to this cognitive warfare stuff, damn, they're good at it. Even to the point that I realized things later on, like and the reason I'm mentioning this is because some people, for understandable reasons, as soon as we start talking about Russian intelligence and Russian collusion, they just dismiss it. And I think what has happened is there were a lot of suspicions that during the scandal with the exaggerated claims against Trump, some of that might have been Russian disinformation itself. And the Russians are really fixated on our tribalism and exploiting that. And I think what they did was they did this really smart thing where if we mention they purposely wanted some of that exaggerated for a whole bunch of reasons. But we've gotten to a space now where the Russian intelligence service's biggest asset is the fact that when you accuse someone of collaborating with Russian intelligence now, they think of that and people don't want to hear it. They don't believe it. And so it's important for us to understand that there's a nuance that we as patriotic Americans need to pursue, which is that sometimes this is exaggerated, but that doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist. And that those concerned about it on either side have kernels of truth when they make these accusations. So like were there Russian influence operations targeting Trump and both sides? Of course they did. So you're going to see effects of that on both sides. That's just reality. So we can't dismiss it on either side ever. But as for Alexander Dugin, just to give some background on that. So he's basically the face of Russian intelligence influence operations, specifically targeting MAGA. He became kind of famous in the late 1990s. I first started talking about him back in 2002 and reading his stuff because he was saying, and he wrote this in his book, that Russia's strategy, which he wanted to implement, because he's connected to Russian intelligence, the Russian government, even if he's not an official employee of the government, as far as we know. His plan was stir up basically sin, hatred, division, anything that can infect American civil society so that we are unable to function. We rip ourselves apart with racism, extremism, hatred, and the system becomes paralyzed. And then use that to boost. And he specifically said right-wing Republican circles back in 1997. The way to get in there was through the isolationist tendencies, encourage those that say we need to just focus on the Monroe Doctrine and just keep to our hemisphere. And he explicitly said, because that will eventually enable Russia to defeat us in our hemisphere. So get America to embrace isolationism, retreat from the world, think that we're focused on the Western Hemisphere, and then beat us in the Western Hemisphere. And I read some of his stuff because there's a lot of cultish, weird stuff that he says, and a lot of overly dramatic academic language to make him sound more intellectual than he is. And I remember 2002, late 2002, reading and talking about it and thinking, this guy's a dumbass. I'm like, this guy is not going to build the fan base among Americans that he thinks. So I figured, I've been on the lookout for, he would find people to mentor who were presentable and smarter. And then here we are, and that guy I called a dumbass, I still think he's a dumbass, it has a fan base despite having a very easily discoverable, horrible record of anti-Americanism and extremism that I thought no patriotic American could look at and say, you know what? I want to consider friendship with that guy. I thought that would never happen. But that's where we are. And so he's kind of the central node with a lot of what's going on. But then there's other people on the Russian side and the Western side who revolve around his social circle and are having a massive impact on the narratives that we talk about and also how we talk to each other. That ultimately, I've said this has the potential to be more dangerous to the survival of the United States than a small nuclear attack. Like if I have to choose an enemy with nuclear weapons or the ability to manipulate social media and wage war on our minds like this, I prefer the guy with nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's much more obvious. You know, explain to the audience, this is one of the things I've been talking to, when we have rampant distrust of our government and we see the impacts of the Biden administration where they weaponized the DOJ, where we had January 6th, where they had massive lockdowns, where they're putting people in jail for walking on a beach. You know, when there is distrust in the government, and then on top of that, you have an event like the Charlie Kirk assassination, explain to the audience how the Russians and all our enemies, China and many more, and by the way, the Europeans, which are frenemies at all times. Like, you know, sometimes we work together, sometimes we don't. They're not overt enemies, but covertly they are. They recognize this. They have their finger on the pulse of the American people, and they look for ways to exploit the American people. And these are just opportunities for them time and time again. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, Americans are very rightfully boastful about the fact that we won the Cold War because we understood it was an ideological war and our ideas and system won. But we haven't followed that thought with, well, obviously they're going to study the flaws in our system. I mean, they're going to work full time to say, well, then how do we identify vulnerabilities in that system and magnify them and then defeat them? And somehow we just haven't really focused on that and understood that part of the reason America is so special is because our freedom makes us fragile and it makes it hard to maintain. And that's why it's so amazing that we've survived and prospered for so long, why America is so special is in a way because of that vulnerability. But we have to protect ourselves. And we really haven't done a good job of that on this particular front. And I would say to get to your point about the Charlie Kirk assassination, how they weaponize conspiracy theories, and you see it amplified in Russian media outlets, Chinese and Iranian as well, but they all work together and they openly say that they coordinate and work together on this stuff, is that they are trying to make our worst tendencies become the dominant features of our dialogue and our personalities. And so hate the other side so much that you only see the flaws on that side. Believe the worst. Your impulse is to believe the absolute worst of the other side. So Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. People on the left that say, "Oh, that's a good thing." Plus, there's a reason Israel and the Republicans did it. And then on the other side, you'll say, "Oh, there's a reason that I'm sure Barack Obama shot him." Like you just immediately assume the worst of the other side. Yeah. And the key to all this is destroying our ability to see and crave nuance. So when we talk about things like the DOJ under Biden or Trump or anyone, because there's scandals under each president, it seems each side only remembers the scandals of the other side, and it's never includes, well, here's why they did XYZ, even if I disagree with it. So by eliminating that nuance, you're able to get people to become cultivated, to become, for example, Candace Owens fans, to just start with the assumption of dot connecting, assuming that they should be connected, and saying there's a plot without explaining how the plot happened, why you think there's a plot. It's just what they start with is saying they look at something like Charlie Kirk's assassination. And they say, well, who benefited? And they think that that's an intellectual triumph for them to be like, I asked the question, who benefited? Yeah, you're real smart. Okay, so you start with that mindset. And then you say, all right, well, then who benefited? And then those are the dots you connected. You can do that in any situation to anyone that you don't like. And so if you start with that premise that there is a plot, and so what dots can you connect if that plot is true, is the exact reverse process of what you should be doing. And so Dugin and all of the other people in the intelligence services, in the propaganda apparatuses of foreign countries, have said for decades and written about for decades how they're studying how we think and how to make us do things like what you're seeing. And they've accurately predicted the effects of it, which, like I said, 2002, I thought Dugin had an understandable strategy, but there was no way he'd build a fan base. And now he has a fan base. And I just can't believe it.
Well, he's also getting in the back pockets of people that do have a fan base. So he's weaponizing those people, right? So, you know, and that's what I saw back in December when Candace started going down this path of saying the U.S. military was involved. When she gets in front of a camera and says, the story I'm getting ready to tell you, by the end of it, the only thing that the U.S. military is going to have to come out and admit they were involved in the Charlie Kirk assassination. Oh, folks, when you start going down that, and who's she really accusing? She's really accusing Donald Trump. She's really accusing the Trump administration of being involved in this. That's what's really happening. And when a foreign adversary sees something like that, you better believe they're going to put a lot of resources behind it. And we know, like, if you're in the military, if you know anything about, number one, I've said this before, the fact that she's going to accuse the military of doing something like this is just unbelievable. They would never use a conventional forces, joint task force, southern border as an apparatus to do something. Let's say the U.S. government did want to assassinate a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil. They're not going to bring in the conventional army, you morons. Right? It's not going to be a meeting at Fort Huachuca. It's going to be at a black site somewhere. And you're definitely not going to have some moron like Mitch Snow, who is a pathological liar and con artist, walk in on it and just happen to see Brian Harpole and, Erica Kirk. So when look, a large program like Candace Owens, and quite frankly, all of these podcasts, they understand that like the American people have abandoned mainstream media. We no longer care what they say because they've lied to us time and time again. And the way that they've lied to us, and the reason that they lied to us, and the reason that they have been able to convince us of narratives that aren't true is using anonymous sources and unverifiable information. And that's exactly what Candace does every single time. It's anonymous sources, unverified information, time and time again. And people are like, oh, this is great. This is great. What they did and how they destroyed the credibility of the mainstream media, we're like, hey, we're not following you anymore. We're going to follow these independent news journalists, these podcasters, these people that we trust. And now these people are abusing people 10 times worse. They've gained their trust as individuals. And then they just tell them, you know what? I had a phone call today. And guess what? Donald Trump killed 10 people, whatever it is. And they just believe it. Yep. Like, where's the proof? Well, I don't need proof. I need you to prove that it didn't happen. And it is frustrating to sit here and watch the American people willingly get duped, just be willfully ignorant and not hold anybody to any standard. We are getting to the point of where we were back in 2015 with the mainstream media and even before, 10 times worse. Like, these people will believe these podcasters no matter what they say, no matter what and by the way, in spite of evidence, they have no evidence. And in spite of evidence proving that they're liars. And then when people like me and you and other people out there show you time and time again that these people have lied to your face and are completely distorting reality, they're like, nope, I'm still Candace, Team Candace. Woo. Go Max, Candace. It's a wild situation to watch, to say the least. And I just want to show everybody this real quick because we're going to get into the middle of this. But what I do also want to show you is the end game, what they're going for. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on this because I've been saying this for a couple months now. It should be called Project 2032 because that's the goal. Lose the midterms, lose 2028, create a woke right opposition party to usurp MAGA and present a party candidate in 2032 running on extreme isolationism. Israel is the devil and other policies, as well as railing against the policies of the incumbent, which will be a Democrat. That's what they want to do. They're going to run opposition. You're going to be given a binary choice. You can either go with the Democrats that are destroying our country, or now you can go with this isolationist conservative party that hates Israel, and you can go with them, and they're going to destroy our country too. Because it won't work, but that's the plan. It will diminish U.S. power and influence globally. It's the leftist globalism repackaged for the global right. This is the end game. This is what's taking place. What's your thoughts on that, Ryan?
So this is part of the reason I'm a political independent. I've voted for both sides over the course of my life. Aside from the fact that I agree with George Washington that political parties are horrible, but I won't go off on a tangent on that. Sure. The way that the Russians, the Chinese, and Iranians view our system is a little bit different than how we talk about it. Sure. So even the question of which party do you favor doesn't really exist in their ideology and their psyche, because they see it as more of an assembly line, like a line going across rather than something being cut in half and you have two sides. They don't view they view us as a system, as a machine. So I think they don't know which side they're going to back. And in their minds, it would not be contradictory to back or oppose both sides at the same time. Like, that's consistent with how they think. So even having this conversation with them and say, well, which side do you want to back? It wouldn't even land. Like you'd be misunderstanding each other, because to them, it's
I'm not necessarily talking about their strategy. I'm talking about the woke right strategy.
Right. Yeah.
What the woke right is trying to do. They want us to lose the midterms. They know that if we lose the midterms, we're going to lose 2028. And then they're going to come up with this opposition party to these horrible Democrats that are in power that are going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to open the borders, and they're going to like, hey, you know what? MAGA's dead. We're better because we're an isolationist party. Oh, by the way, we're going to convince everybody that Israel is the worst thing on earth. Now, I agree with you. No matter who's in power, and we have evidence of this, by the way, no matter who's in power, Russia, China, they have contingency planning, right? It's like, okay, if this person wins, we know what angle to approach the American people and deceive the American people this way. If this person wins or this party's in play, here's the vulnerabilities that we can exploit over here. And a great example of this, I saw this. You remember the Russia hoax we had going on? Folks, it was by no accident that when everybody's saying that Trump was controlled by Putin, what does Putin do? He goes out there and he talks very kindly about, he's like, Trump's great. Great president. He was stoking that fire and that distrust and that division. And all the Democrats, they played right into it. They're like, look, he loves Trump. Trump loves him. Trump's saying nice things about Putin. Putin's saying nice things about him. Like, they know how to play us and play our vulnerabilities and the fracture points within our society. And right now, what we're seeing is we're seeing them specifically target the right. They want to fracture the right. They want to, again, promote this internal additional choice out within the right. It's like you can either go with MAGA and MAGA's failing you, the Epstein files, they're not deporting people, he doesn't have a wall, even though we have net negative migration, because they want to fracture that, because they don't want to see us to win the midterms. They don't want to see us continue this MAGA doctrine going past 2028.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the midterms definitely, because they do want as much division as possible. So they could totally agree with one side or the other and still want that side to lose the midterms, because they want, one of their best assets is there's a understandable perception around the world that our system is failing and doesn't work today because it's too slow. And you really saw that during COVID when, like, we're talking about giving money out each month, which a lot of countries did in larger amounts because people needed it. And the vast majority of Americans agreed, like, yeah, we need financial help if you're not going to let us go to our jobs. And our system could not get together to act quickly, even though everyone agreed on that just about politically. Like, it was every politician was saying, yeah, we want to do that, but they couldn't agree on the exact dollar amount and the text in the legislation. So it took forever and not much came through. And so from their perspective, they would say, all right, well, have a divided government as much as possible, regardless of who you favor, because you guys just can't get your act together when there's a crisis. And that's really good for them operationally and ideologically. So I think that's true. Now, when it comes to the woke right, because of the algorithms on social media, it's very hard to see that the same thing we're talking about is happening on the left at the same time. And it was actually more visible in 2024 when the woke left was, I mean, it's an exact mirroring, and they cross over operationally on each other's shows, and it's a system. That's the
horseshoe theory that's quickly turning into a circle.
Yes, I call it the oval theory. I say that the horseshoe theory that people are now, the debate's been won that's true. I say it's now obsolete. You're too late. It's now the oval theory. That's why I call it the global seditionist movement. This is one entity, guys. It's all one thing. And there's the seditionist right, seditionist left. And then there's the woke right and woke left, which is broader because not all of them are necessarily seditionists, like trying to destroy the country. They're just woke, So on the left, the exact conversations that we're having right now happened on the left in 2024. And even it started way before that. And their goal and their components were saying this too. Some of them wanted Trump to win because they wanted to be able to say to the left and say to the DNC, all right, well, you didn't go along with us. Don't assume our vote is guaranteed. We have the power to make you lose and decide who wins in primaries, because you only need to control a few percentage of vote, because elections are so close. You only need anywhere near a majority of the vote to be able to own the election and the whole process. So you had the people on the left doing that, and now the same thing's happening on the right. And I wrote a big analysis saying exactly this would happen. I'm like, that's going to come together into one block, and we could be screwed for a very long time. Like, that's a strategy that can actually work and win and defeat America. That's how serious I see this. If you have the power to decide who wins the primaries on both sides or who wins the general election, because you can run a third party. Yeah, there's all these things you can do because you have just enough of that swing vote to decide the outcome and to seduce all the well-paid political consultants whose job requires them to kiss the bad guy's feet. That's how you own America. That's how you win this whole thing.
Yeah. I got a quick video I want to play, and I know I think you had some media. Were you able to pull that up?
I was not, but I just posted it under the thread that you already have up.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so real quick, folks, I want to play this quick thing by our good friend Nathan Livingstone, Milk Bar TV. This is a pretty good one. I've seen this in the past. It talks a little bit about, let me read the caption too, because that's important. Watch Tucker Carlson go all in on America forming a new world order with Russia, China, and Iran. He regurgitates Russian propagandist Alexander Dugin and China's not Professor Yang, pushing for America to relinquish power to the West enemies. And that's another character that is like the Chinese equivalent of Dugin, is this professor. He's not a professor, but he calls himself Professor Yang. But let's play this and listen.
So there's the downfall of the Western unipolarity and the rise of the multipolarity.
And so you're watching the end of the global American empire, the unipolar world. And so the death of the unipolar moment and of the institutions within the evangelical movement, American Protestant Christianity, are going away, but they will be replaced by something better and purer.
We are living in the crucial moment of this emergence of multipolarity,
including Russia, China, Iran, and say it's time for a new world order where we are partners in this relationship.
I think that's the wisest possible advice and probably the only path that preserves civilization.
So there we have that. I mean, here openly calling for this new world order. And really what this new world order is, and Ryan, you jump in here and give me your thoughts on this, but what we have is a diminished America. We have America that's taken a step back, that is allowing these other countries that we've been oppressing for so long, that have a better system, i.e. China, i.e. Russia, communism, socialism, centralized power. Those are always better because our system is too slow. And we see people kind of buying into this a little bit right now. That's one of the biggest complaints, that things aren't happening fast enough under the Trump administration. And the reality is our founders were very intelligent, and they made it to where we have, three co-equal branches of government. It was made to happen. Things were made to happen slow so that we can see those effects, so that we can't just institute, one policy or the very next day, and suddenly it's crashing the system. Like, that's what's going on. But these people want things done now. They want to, like, if the Trump administration, there's an element of the right, if they could just go through the Epstein files and find names, regardless if there's any proof, evidence, or anything else, and we just started arresting these people, throwing them in jail, there would be a huge element on the right that would just be like, oh, this is great. Even though it's a travesty of justice, even though that's not how it works, they would love that. This is dictatorial, freaking banana republic stuff that these people want because they want it now. And that's how these different authoritarian states operate. They want something done. They have a political dissident that they don't like. We're going to trump up some charges, throw them in jail, and we'll just let them sit there. And that's what the right is now pushing. That's what they're advocating for. They want justice now. They want this now. They want this policy now. We need to throw this guy in jail. And they're like, hey, Trump hasn't arrested anybody with the Epstein files, which is not true, by the way. There have been arrests. We want these people thrown out of the country right now. Well, we have a bureaucratic system that has been corrupted to some extent by leftist policies where these people are protected. So that's what we got going on.
Yeah, I just want to say that, first of all, that's actually a really brilliant point that I hadn't fully thought out or articulated. So I hope it gets clipped so that people understand that part of the reason the foreign propaganda apparatus and the woke right pushes this aside from the fact that it resonates with people, is exactly what you just said. Is that it encourages this mindset, like, yeah, of course the government is illegitimate in their minds. They've been pushed that line for more. But what they're zeroing in on is exactly what you said. You need authoritarianism. And that mirrors, I wrote an article, 2-part series in 2014 about how Putin was doing this in regards to Christianity. Because I was watching or reading their propaganda every single day. I used to go to the state, like Pravda. I used to go to the state newspapers. And I noticed the way they were talking about Christianity had really suddenly changed right in, like, it was 2010, maybe 2009, but there was a specific, like, 1 week period in 2010 where I saw it flip. And what they were pushing was basically the West has to understand that our secular democracy, our constitutional republic, well, times have changed, and that's not compatible with Christianity. Look at how miserable you are, how much sin there is. Look at Hollywood. Now, are you a Christian first, or are you an American first? I mean, what the West has to understand is that your system is allowing Christianity to die and family values to die. So you now have to make a choice. Would you rather have your faith prosper, but you need to be pro-Putin and mimic him a little bit, accept some authoritarianism? Or are you America first, and you're going to allow this freedom to destroy your faith and destroy the morals of your people? That's your choice. And that was the talking point that they put forth. And I did, like I said, a 2-part series. I can tweet it out for the Institute on Religion and Democracy in 2014, because Pat Buchanan and others were starting to make that argument. And it was like it was lifted right from Russian state media. And now it's being applied in the political context, but I hadn't quite, I didn't apply to the Epstein thing. You're right. That's exactly what that is. It's a subtle way of saying you need authoritarianism.
It's the same exact argument they've made for the last 60 years on the left. Like, hey, look, the Constitution is old. It was written by people that were slave traders. It was founded on these corrupt principles that don't apply today. Like, that was good for back then, but now what we need to overstep the Constitution, put that away, or reinterpret the Constitution to mean something else entirely, because it's not working for us today. That's old. It's the same exact thing. Like, we've got to get rid of the Constitution. And what they've done on the right essentially is convince them the same thing. Like, hey, there's this existential threat that, at least for now, we need to set aside the Constitution. We need to act outside the bounds of the Constitution, because this is so urgent that we got to set that aside. And once we do that, folks, once we do that, everything is on the table. We have completely thrown away the principles on which this country was founded, the principles that I would argue made this country great, and they're timeless. They still apply today. And matter of fact, they apply more today than they ever have. But these people want to say, look, America has gotten too big for its britches. They cause nothing but problems in the world. And it's the same people that, when they're either saying Israel's the biggest problem, because that's an easier thing for people to realize, but they're the same people that are constantly saying America is the source of all the evil in the world. And and I would just reject that outright. We've done more good in the world than any other country ever has. It's very sad to watch Americans, but especially those on the right, fall for these just misinformation tropes. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Is this the video that you were talking about right here?
Yes. Yeah. People got to say this was basically just discovered and posted. So this will put you guys ahead of everyone else in terms of the evidence that's building around what we've learned about Candace Owens.
Sweet.
See that we are just at the beginning of the change of the nature of the previous forum into something new. That is St. Petersburg International Economic Forum 2.0. That will be precisely the tool, and maybe one of most important tools of promotion of multipolarity. That we are just in the
so there's that. Let's talk about what this actually is. So we have the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. We now know that Candace Owens is going to be a guest speaker. She's probably one of the main speakers of this. among other things. A lot of people were saying, oh, she's just going, she's just attending. And I want people to understand how this stuff works as well. They don't bring these Americans in and just like, hey, look, we're going to try to use you to overthrow your country. Look, they're going to indoctrinate them too. Like, hey, look, we want to help you help your country. They've already identified a vulnerability in Candace Owens, thinking that, you know, certain elements of American society, certain elements of the Trump administration are evil for one reason or another. And right now, it's probably the thing that's easiest to convince Candace Owens is like, hey, you know what? America and Trump has allowed Israel to influence your country so bad. Like, we want you to come and talk about those things, and we want to help you help America. That's how this stuff works, folks. That's how they capture people. They're not going in there like, hey, look, we want to help you bring down the Trump administration. We want to help you become a traitor. That's what they're doing, but that's not how it's sold. So talk a little bit about this economic forum, what it actually is, Ryan.
Sure. So, and while I say this, I don't know if maybe Jen's able to do this. The video where Candace announces that she's going to Russia, there's something I want to point out at the very end of that clip when she starts talking about how her husband has been there a few times. Because as part of when I was studying these intelligence operations for fun as a kid, I learned different tells and how to pick up on certain things. And that will relate to what we're talking about. Now, the video that we played, that was Dugin. That was the Russian influence operative who's targeting MAGA in order to defeat the United States, as he has written, talking about the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, SPIFE, I guess you call it SPIF, something like that, at this forum, explaining that even though it's supposed to be about like international investing in business, which, by the way, you know something's up, because if you're talking about international investing, you're not going to think we need Candace Owens to teach us about that. Like, it doesn't work.
The great economic mind, the great economic mind that is Candace Owens.
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah, it's really. So the Russians are good. Like I say this all the time, they're really good at achieving their objective, but they're really dumb sometimes along the way. And we should catch a lot of this, and that's a pretty big sign. And so what Dugin is saying there is that he's making it sound like it changed. I don't know so much of it changed. I guess maybe intensified is a better word. Is that the purpose of that forum, which brings in VIPs from around the world? It's a really big deal. Putin normally speaks there each year in St. Petersburg for this. It is, he says, one of the most important tools or weapons or whatever he said for promoting a multipolar world. I first heard that in the late 1990s. That's when Russia and China started using that language. Dugin really amplified it, and it came from, I'm forgetting the guy's name, but it was one of the Russian intelligence directors was the first guy that basically scripted that out. And then the leaders adopted it, and then Dugin's responsible for inserting that into the American discourse. Again, something that I thought like wouldn't become common language, but is now. And he's saying that this forum that they chose Candace Owens to speak at is one of the weapons for promoting that multipolar world to replace the West, the unipolar world, meaning American dominance, America as a superpower. They want to replace it with a multipolar world, which means a block of anti-American countries that can check American power, and usually they'll slip up at some point and say, ultimately defeat us. But multipolar world is kind of meant to say, no, we just want to be your equal, so that there's like mutually assured destruction, which means hurting America enough that they can take us on.
The way
that's the goal. And they say, oh, you know who we need? Candace.
Yeah. Well, the way they'll sell it is mutually assured, mutually assured success to someone like Candace. And folks, I want to remind people, and I often forget that people don't think about this, and I take some of these things for granted. If somebody in the Russian government, like I feel like I'm completely uncorruptible when it comes to this country. Like, I bleed red, white, and blue, folks. I love this country. I love everything it stands for. Let's say somebody in Russia said, Gary, you know what? We're going to give you a paid vacation. We just want you to come talk at this forum or whatever else. And maybe they'll never even try to influence me in any way. The reason that I would never go is you have to understand the moment, like when you are in the crosshairs of the Kremlin and the FSB, the moment that you get there, you're going to have some people there that are in the U.S. and in embassies and consulates. We call them expediters. Right. So you're going to have these people like, hey, you know what? These people are going to be around you. They're going to help you. They're going to help you get through. If you're walking around, they're going to provide security. They're going to help translate. They're going to do all these things. Those are FSB operatives. And let me tell you the other thing that happens. Every piece of your electronics, your room is bugged. They are collecting on you from the moment that you land. They have definitely infiltrated every bit of your electronics. So they are now, when you leave, and this is why when government operatives, our government, like if you're going to an embassy or consulate or whatever else, you don't bring your devices. All right. When you get there, they issue you a device and you don't bring that home. Do you think Candace is going to do that? You think everything should throw away? No. Like, you don't bring this stuff home because it is 100% infiltrated. You are now, everything that you do, every conversation you have, and you don't think that they exploit that? They're exploiting every aspect of your life. And now they go from like kind of just standing by and watching your podcast and being able to say, you know what, this is how we're gonna angle this. This is how we're gonna use this. This is how we're going to influence her. This is what we're gonna do. Like, they're building a psychological profile. Now they have an inside look of the most intimate moments of your life. And now they know at the granular level how to use you, because you are an unwitting moron, Candace Owens, and anybody else that goes to this, because you don't even realize how you're being used. And this is what's taking place. So when she gets there, the moment she gets there, all of her electronics going forward, unless she comes back, throws them away, or gets them wiped, or whatever else. And even then, it's like when you're dealing with state-sponsored level surveillance, folks, there is no antivirus that's going to save you. There is no, software that's going to keep them out. They have moved way past that. They're listening. They're using your phone. Folks, this goes back to 2005. You know how we killed so many terrorists? You know how we found them? Is because even that they were using Nokia flip phones, all right, even when they took the battery out, guess what? For very small amounts of time, we could ping that phone, we could still find them. And you better believe that this device, your TVs and everything else, state-sponsored, they can tap into that. They can listen to exactly what you're saying, even when your device is off. Like, and these people don't even realize this. They don't understand how vulnerable they are to this because they're freaking morons. I said, I posted a thing saying Candace Owens. I was like, the only way that Candace Owens would be going to this is she if the Kremlin knew about it. She's like, oh, well, she responded. She said, oh, yeah, I mean, they have to issue visas, moron. I was like, that's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You don't know the difference between our State Department and the White House and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Kremlin, you idiot. Like, they don't even realize that there is a distinction between these things. So they exploit.
You know what drives me nuts too is, like, as much as you may dislike Candace Owens, if she was doing this and she was like, well, what should I do? Like, she doesn't reach out to her adversary. She doesn't reach out to, if she has any friends who know this stuff, I don't know if she does. She doesn't reach out to anybody when everybody would be willing to help her in order to limit the damage of this. Like, she doesn't, like, I doubt she's had any conversation, reach out to anyone saying, is there any risk here? What should I do? How do I protect myself? Like, and you see that throughout her research. Like, she very, very rarely addresses other opinions, tells her audience that they even exist, addresses the criticism in a fair way, and says, here's everything that they said, here's my response. Like, she does everything she can to create this little echo chamber where what she wants is in there for her audience, and what isn't in there is not in there. But it applies even to things like this. There is no evidence that there is a team, B team analysis where she or anyone that she runs ideas against to say, do you think this is a good idea? Is there any information I should know about before I say this or do this? I have not seen any evidence that process exists in her brain or in her physical process with her team. And you're right, when she goes to Russia, she's owned. She's owned because I find it highly unlikely that there isn't something in her phone, maybe something she thinks she deleted, that they can use against her. And think about everybody else. They're going to have her messages. If one of her friends said a joke that they're embarrassed about, or disclosed that she's talked to Trump on the phone, she's talked to almost everybody who's significant at some point in the conservative movement. So it's not just about her. Like, they collect the most on her. They're now collecting on every single person that she talked about. And they can exploit all of that. They can use it for 1,000,001 purposes. So that she is providing them. It's like a different form of Edward Snowden. It's like she's providing them with an intelligence bonanza, not just on herself, but everyone else. And that's not even when we talk about the influence operation part. So let's just say somehow she goes there and says, oh, there's drunk hookers everywhere, which is what goes on at these events, by the way. So, there's a lot of honeypot operations apparently that goes on there. It's known for the debauchery that goes on. And so say she doesn't like Russia. Well, operationally, first of all, they probably own you. I mean, they're going to have leverage over you. I don't know that she's patriotic and moral enough to say, I'm willing to be embarrassed to not go along with you. But they've won already that. So there's two planks here for them in terms of Candace Owens, the influence operation thing, and then it's spy stuff and collecting on Americans and weaponizing that. And in terms of how things work today, yes, the Russians are happy to get classified documents from a government operative. They're just as happy to get not classified information from someone who's highly influential. That's just as useful to them. And this is the equivalent of Snowden or someone else swiping files from a classified computer and going over there and giving it to them. That's what she's doing, except the stuff isn't classified.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. The problem with her is that she's a subject matter expert in everything. She's her worst enemy, because whatever she thinks the world reality is, that's what she applies. Even though like subject after subject after subject, she has no clue what she's talking about, and she presents things that are completely false, partly due to her ignorance, partly because she wants to twist them and use them for propaganda and push narrative. But even the things that she presents as fact that are completely false, just out of ignorance, she will spew with the utmost confidence, and she will convince people that she knows these things or knows about these things when she doesn't know anything. It's, we've seen that time and time again. And, we're getting ready to play this clip. We played it at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to play it again for you, because you're right. We already know that her husband has been to Russia multiple times. And there's no telling of the different ways that he's been exploited from those previous trips that may play directly into what's happening now. So let's just go ahead and play this clip, and go ahead, Jen, hit play on that for us. Jen, we're not getting any audio.
Yes, I'm funded by Iran and Russia and probably Pakistan. Obviously, not sure. My husband's been to Russia quite a few times because he fishes, and Europeans just get to go everywhere. They just travel there. For them, it's a short flight. And when we got married, I was like, man, I would really love to get out there. We're finally making it happen. So I will be completely off air.
Right
also, if you are watching the show.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you see the eye movement that happened there? Look at, so she has the line about we're going on vacation. She's very comfortable. But she's uncomfortable enough that she feels she has to add something.
Russia and probably Pakistan. Obviously, not sure. My husband's been to Russia quite a few times because he fishes. And
right here.
Europeans just get to go everywhere. They just travel there. For them, it's a short flight. And when we got married, I was like, man, I would really love to get out there. We're finally making it happen. So I will be completely off air.
You see that little moment there?
Good. Yeah.
She's comfortable. She's smiling. It's uncomfortable enough that she feels she has to go a little extra mile. She's improvising. She knew before she was going to say that part. She decides I need to add a little bit more. She's feeling insecure about this. But it's not planned. So she starts talking about her husband because she knows that's a point of vulnerability. The fact that her husband has been to Russia is on her mind. She feels better disclosing it. And then if you look at her eye contact, notice she's looking off to the side. Eye movements going back and forth. What do I say and I don't say? She's making a choice.
Yeah.
And she becomes a little inarticulate. She's off script. And then because she's uncomfortable, she goes into the defensive dismissive mode where it's okay, I said what I said, still feeling anxious. Oh, Europeans just always do that. That just in that small point of 5 seconds, that's everything that went on there psychologically.
Well, I also want to point out some deception there at the beginning that was very calculated as well. She's like, oh, I'm going to Russia. Now they're going to say I'm paid by Russia, Iran, Pakistan. Like, why would anyone say that you're paid by Iran or Pakistan if you're going to Russia? Like that was intentional obfuscation to like muddy the waters a little bit and start making you think about something else before she moves on to the next thing. Like it's the most ridiculous thing. It's like if I suspected you of stealing something, you're like, oh yeah, I'm just a thief, a murderer, a con artist, of whatever. Okay, we got you. Like,
exactly.
No, I didn't say that you murdered anybody. I said that you stole something. It is intentional confusion, obfuscation.
Yeah, it's saying that what my opponent's about to say is equivalent in value to these other ridiculous things, so that when you remember that. So then when you hear the critic point something out, because people make a judgment call before a sentence is finished, you're already saying, oh, this fits that box that Candace told me about. And then you don't listen to the rest of the sentence, just like my thread there. You may not scroll down to see the rest of the evidence. Why? Oh, I know the rest of what Ryan said because it fits that box I already heard about. I mean, and I don't even know if it's conscious, because a lot of these people who lie a lot, like you meet manipulative people, it's just like instinctual for them. But that clip, I mean, it was just really telling if you look at the body language there and the changes in speech patterns, that she's lying. She feels insecure about lying, maybe not immoral, but she's nervous about it a little bit. And there's something there with the husband. There's stuff I haven't published or said yet that would make a lot of sense of that. But I have a full report coming out that it just gets crazier and crazier. Let's say that.
Folks, if you're not already, make sure you go down in the description below, and all of Ryan's socials are down there. Make sure you're following him. Make sure you're sharing his information as well as ours. Make sure you share this. This is your call to action. I appreciate all the super chats. I appreciate you subscribing. The biggest thing that you can do is share our content to make sure that we get this information out to people, and people start waking up and understanding the threat that their country is under through these podcasters, people like Candace Owens, people like Tucker Carlson. This is a real problem. And just like what Ryan said at the beginning of this is worse than ballistic warfare, because it is so widespread and it seems so innocuous that people buy into this, and they use the things that you're vulnerable, whether it's jealousy, whether it's envy, whether it's, you know, these tropes for hatred for Jews that have been around for a long time. That's like, even if you're not into that, like you've heard it so much this stuff's been going on for hundreds of years. We're vulnerable to it. They know how to manipulate people. They know how to exploit people. And the solution, the antidote, is these discussions right here. So, you know, share our content, follow Ryan and other people out there. Laura Loomer's been all over this as well. Yeah. She shared a lot of your analysis. That was really good. I love to see, you know, this information getting out on a larger scale. So let's talk about the Economic Forum. Like, what is the real intent behind this meeting of the minds, this international forum where all these people are going to come together? And, you know, the way that I see it is we're pushing a globalist agenda, and we're selling people on the globalist agenda and trying to convince them that it's good for them and it's good for their country. But go into that a little bit.
Sure. So it's a way. There is some investment business deals that are going on. So there's partially an economic motive broadly. But, you know, the Russians are seizing every opportunity they can get. And what we know, and this is, it doesn't take much to find all this out. The purpose of the forum and what it's turned into, going back, I mean, even before 2014, even. But basically, it is a hotspot for Russian intelligence, Russian organized crime, Western collaborators, and those that are affluent, those that have influence around the world, to go there and think that they're furthering themselves when really they're falling into a trap that has been set for them. And you look at the organizing committee, the people put together, it's all of Putin's top advisors and like the first deputy director of the FSB. That's the KGB renamed. Like, you're putting together an event, and the organizing committee has your intelligence leaders on it. So this isn't speculation. It's organized by Russian intelligence. I think say that. And so the different points about it, I would say, are this. There's the propaganda at the event. They want to involve Candace, and they're having what is really an operational discussion disguised as a public panel. If you look at her forum and the people she's with, they're talking about how to retain audiences over the long term, how to maximize their effectiveness with their digital media content. It's an operational conversation, in addition to the other purposes that we talked about. What we also know about the forum is that so they're trying to learn from her, and they also want to teach her to be more effective. It's about relationship building. They want to, so there's going to be conversations and meetings that go on that whole day or several days if she's there for the whole thing, that we're not going to know about. And it's going to be a secure spot. It's not going to be at a coffee shop that few people are at. And so if an unexpected guest arrives to record you, you're going to know. The full brunt of Russian security and counterintelligence measures are going to be present there because you have Putin there. You have the Russian equivalent of the Secret Service there. So it's a secure spot for them to have these conversations and meetings at. And historically, what we also know is this. It is the location for Russia's dirtiest operations. So there's influence operations and intelligence operations. And what we know from people who have been arrested, deported, and investigations into them is that you have a more overt objective where this has actually been written down. Find foreign influencers and strike things like media partnerships with them and incorporate them into state-controlled soft power programs. So those are exact quotes from leaked investigative documents into how this operates that I posted on my thread. It says that the panels, and she is on a panel, serve as, quote, recruitment pipelines. and pipelines into what? Exactly what I said. Involving foreign influencers, exact quote, to be involved in media partnerships, exact quote, as part of state-controlled soft power programs. Almost an exact quote. So there's no nuance here that I'm missing, no other way to interpret it. That's what this is. And to give you an idea of how bad it is, well, first of all, look at our co-panelists, most of which are sanctioned by the US and European Union for their involvement in propaganda and disinformation operations and the war in Ukraine, more operational roles.
Alexander Dugin is sanctioned by the United States.
He is. He's not speaking on our panel because that would just be too ballsy. But he's gonna be there. He's sanctioned by the United States. So are his organizations and his propaganda sites. So when people say, "Oh, he has nothing to do with the Russian government," that's just crap. Yeah. And we can prove that. But this is so dirty that one of the things this is known for is the presence of escorts. Modeling agencies say that they work with the staff of the forum to send in these models, going to be escorts, into the place to target affluent people. And it's so bad that there's people locally complain about this, how much filth comes in during this time of year when this event is held. So, I mean, it's so dirty that one of the leaders of this forum, who is speaking this year at the same event Candace Owens is, used to be like one of Jeffrey Epstein's best Russian friends. Like, Epstein had a Russian assistant with all sorts of connections of her own. So Epstein is far more connected to Russia than the CIA and Mossad, like miles ahead. And his Russian assistant got a letter of recommendation from the Russian intelligence FSB guy who runs this. The guy who runs this, that same guy, the FSB guy, is friends with Epstein. They discuss business deals. And he sent an invite to Epstein to attend this event that Candace is speaking at as a way of getting Epstein a Russian visa. It goes even further. Epstein calls the guy, the FSB guy, who led the event that Candace is speaking at, and complains to him about a Russian model, who the guy obviously knows, in New York, blackmailing powerful businessmen in New York that Epstein knows. Epstein contacts this guy and says, like, what can we do about this? The guy gets information on her, obviously working with intelligence. Where did he get that information from? Sends it over to Epstein. Something goes on. Epstein writes an email to himself, which some people do sometimes thinking it'll never get out there, but it got out there because you're not sending it electronically. He was keeping a note for himself. And it makes it very clear that he is at that moment planning, and almost certainly actually did, threaten that Russian model to stop blackmailing these businessmen that he knows, and to tell her, if you don't stop, I'm going to send the FSB after you because you're going to be declared an enemy of the people, meaning enemy of the Russian people. The model is Russian, so the FSB, his FSB friends, are going to come and harm her. So, I mean, that part, I mean, I get consistently surprised more I looked into this, but I also kind of love the fact that I can connect Candace to Epstein, like rhetorically. She didn't know him or anything, but using her same logic, she's way closer to Jeffrey Epstein and foreign intelligence services than anyone she accuses of those same things.
Well, I mean, even John Mappin. John Mappin is in the Epstein files, and nobody cares. Apparently, they want to, try to hang this around Trump's neck all the time, but they never talk about all these people that are actually in the Epstein files? Is there anything that indicates any sort of criminality? No, but we're just asking questions, right?
I disagree.
Why John Mappin is in the Epstein files? Why this random Scientologist who happens to be married to a Russian is in the Epstein files? That his wife does have Russian ties to ties to Russian intelligence. Like, it gets wild. And the other thing that goes back to this is I just showed earlier that this is part of the BRICS initiative. This entire economic forum is part of the BRICS initiative. But I just showed you all. I want you guys to see this real quick. So here is a list of all the speakers at the 2026 St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. And then, just for giggles, what I did is I threw into Grok. I said, you know, from a American adversary standpoint or American threat assessment standpoint, let's talk about the different people that are coming. They're going to be speakers at the Economic Forum. We have Alexei Volkov, senior organizer of Russia's flagship international business events. Ross Congress, under presidential patronage, promotes Russia's global economic outreach, often emphasizing de-dollarization, local currencies, and partnerships with global South, non-Western countries to bypass sanctions so that we can stop everything. Look, BRICS, and if you want to talk a little bit about BRICS. So BRICS is the idea to unseat the American dollar. And if that happens, folks, our influence, and this goes back to this whole push to diminish America's influence in the world, and this goes back to the one world order. That's what they want. They want to get rid of the dollar as the standard so that they can push this BRICS initiative, so that they can bypass this and they can just run amok in the world. That's why these woke right people are trying to sell you on, like, look, we need isolationism. We've been too interventionalist. Like, we've got to pull in. We want extreme isolationism so that they can do whatever they want. And this is a selling point. This is propaganda from Russia, China, Brazil, among many other people, the communists and globalists of the world, to trick the American people to voting for this idea that America just needs to collapse down on itself and just leave the world alone. The only thing more dangerous, significantly more dangerous than us going out there and, you know, meddling in the world affairs is extreme isolationism. Folks, it will destroy this country economically, militarily. Interventionalism has nothing on extreme isolationism. It just doesn't.
Yeah. And well, first of all, Epstein, you mentioned BRICS. So Epstein was trying to get a meeting with Putin because, and this is in the Epstein files, he wanted to help Russia dominate essentially cryptocurrency. He said, I want to help Russia leapfrog ahead of the rest of the world in upgrading the financial and economic system. So he openly wanted Russia to defeat the U.S., wanted to help Russia. This stuff about him being an Israeli, I understand why some people say it, or being a CIA agent, I understand it, but like, you've got to do a comparative analysis here. I mean, the evidence connecting him to Russia when he's openly saying, I want to help Russia defeat the United States, and he has all these Russian intelligence contacts, and there's an assistant who's Russian and probably connect to Russian intelligence. It's just unbelievable. Now, you mentioned some of the people speaking at Candace Owens' event. Well, it's not her, but the event that she's speaking at. Yeah. So to really drive this home, the people that she is going to be, that the Russians have chosen to surround her with, aside from Dugin, let's take a look at who's on her panel, right? So the people she's going to be next to. The moderator, Maria Sittel, she's sanctioned by the European Union because she's an operative in Russia's hybrid warfare, according to the Europeans. She specifically targets European audiences with, there's a quote, information manipulation. Gee, I wonder why they felt she's a good match for Candace. Yeah. Information manipulation. Then the panelist. So that's the moderator. One of her co-panelists, Alexander Zarov, one of the top propagandists for the Russian government, appointed to that position by Putin and is sanctioned by the United States. Another panelist, Julia Baran, I'm not even going to try. Julia is sanctioned by the EU because she's a disinformation operative, going so far as to justify how Russia kidnaps Ukrainian children from their parents. The other panelist, Anna something, is sanctioned by the U.S., is the deputy chairman of Russia's State Duma, a government body. She is a protege of this really well-known Russian Orthodox oligarch who is sanctioned by the U.S. and is identified by the Institute for the Study of War as one of Russia's top, quote, cognitive war fighters. So one of the top cognitive war fighters has a protege. That protege is on the panel with Candace Owens, connected to the Russian Orthodox Church, that Candace has openly contemplated joining. She praises it, so she's saying a Catholic, but at one point she almost converted to it, and she still is a fan of it. She advocates for a Russian Orthodox Catholic alliance for all of this. And that guy, the oligarch whose protege is on the panel with her, has taken Candace's content and rebroadcasted it on his Russian government-controlled propaganda network. So they put someone who is familiar with her content, who has been active in amplifying it, on the panel with her. So just those speakers on her panel tells you what's going on here, aside from the leaked documents I mentioned, saying the panels are a recruitment pipeline for doing things like establishing media partnerships with foreign influencers to incorporate them into soft power programs for the Russian government. It's rare in life you get this many smoking guns related to a story of covert influence operations. Very rarely happens. You have it 10 times over here.
Yeah, I'm typing in another thing here in DeGrock. I just want to see some analysis. But, you touched on some people that are mentioned here. And let me throw this up here because there's some other folks that are listed here that were openly listed. Most of the people that you mentioned, I didn't even actually see. But it goes back to Russian media, right? So, again, we have Alexei Ivanov has major Russian streaming services, but supports domestic media culture influence and soft power. We have moderator Dmitry Mednikov, media executive involved in Russian broadcasting and international content, supports narrative control and outreach at forums. I mean, we could see what it is, folks. And I'm going to try to get a list of all the other people that are actually, see if we can get Grok to do that, present all the people speaking at the forum, and then get a threat analysis on those people, and we'll touch back on that. But I mean, at a minimum, I don't care what good intentions you have. Like, this is subversive activity. This is supporting BRICS. This is supporting our adversaries. This is giving our adversaries, wittingly or unwittingly, and I think you have to go with wittingly at this point. Like, for a long time, I gave Candace Owens the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, she's just dumb on this. She doesn't know what's going on, and she's just being used. At this point, I think she's much more involved than I gave her credit for, and it probably has to do with her husband. And look, her husband comes from a family that's very sophisticated, that is tied into a lot of different areas, right? Especially when it comes down to the intelligence portions of this, and somebody that knows, that grew up understanding what it is to be targeted by state-sponsored entities. Clearly has spent time in Russia. We have no idea. What information they have on George Farmer, what potential blackmail operations are being conducted on George Farmer, what type of influence operations are being conducted on George Farmer. And you better believe, just like I said about Candace Owens, she's going to go there. She's going to have all of her electronics exploited. They're going to have access to everything. That probably has already happened, because guess what? George Farmer has been to Russia. So, they're tied into him. Anyone that he is connected with, especially a wife, it's their information is going to be exploited and compromised as well. It's just how it works, folks. This is not complicated. It's not hard. It's just a fact of the matter. So I don't know. Like,
yeah.
What do you think? Like, what's your analysis? I know this is just speculation. But what's your analysis of Candace Owens' knowledge of this? What do you think she is trying to accomplish? Is she just compromised, or is she just a willing participant? I mean, I know you tangentially, at least, you kind of know what she's been saying on her podcast for a long time, and the damage and division that she has caused. What's your thoughts on that?
It might be all of it. I don't. I don't know, because I don't know what opportunities they had to collect on her and when. They Russian linked operative or not. I'm trying to be careful with the words here.
Sure.
Well, like John Mappin, for example, openly connected to the Russian government. Not an official, but he goes to private events at the Russian ambassador's house. He's the Scientologist QAnon guy, and brags on his site about how he does business at the highest levels, Russia and China. His wife, who was born in Kazakhstan but is also Russian, grew up in her childhood. Some contradictions there that I can't quite figure out in her bio, but she boasts that her family comes from the highest levels of the former Soviet Union. Her grandfather was a senior Soviet official. So there's a lot there. He started obsessively trying to reach out to Charlie Kirk, but especially Candace in 2018. What prompted that? Why the obsession? When they seem to be ignoring him, and then she announces Brexit, and then he really gets obsessive, and then contact is made. And some other things went on around the same time. The Russian intelligence bot networks, Brexit gets announced, and of all the things in the world to pay attention to, the bot networks and the trolls that Russian intelligence uses, like the networks actually track, start boosting her and Brexit. Like, I mean, immediately.
Yeah.
At the same time that the Russia-connected John Mappin is trying to make contact with her and does, and I mean, very short weeks later, puts together a massive fundraiser for her. She goes to London. That's where she meets her husband. All these strange things happen in like a 2-month period, and then weirder things happen in like a longer, like 4-month period. There's just like a lot of weird stuff goes on. And so what do they have anything on her? It's hard to say. She was around people that may have been in a position to collect something on her. I mean, nothing's going to compare to going to this event in Russia. I mean, there's always limitations. There's no limitations in that environment. When you're going to an event that's basically protected by Russia's secret service to meet with Russian operatives about barely covert programs. I mean, what they're going to collect on her is and everybody else who's ever talked to her is going to be unbelievable.
John Mappin is like the ideal infiltration operation into American politics. You have someone that there's two areas of connection with this that you can see, and you can. It's obvious to me, and it should be obvious to most people, of how he's trying to influence American politics. Number one, he was highly involved with QAnon, and with QAnon, folks, there was a lot. I think there is some truth, like there's some good things about QAnon, or at least Q. All right, and then you have an opportunity there that I think was exploited by people like John Mappin, Russians, and other foreign intelligence that were using the QAnon to insert disinformation, misinformation. So there's that. All right. So he was inserting himself in American politics. And then, of course, he tries to go through Charlie Kirk with TPUSA, the most influential political organization in the United States with the most influential people. And then he may not have been able to influence Charlie Kirk in the way, but he has somebody right next to him that's running parallel with Charlie Kirk, and that is Candace Owens. That's dumber, that's easier to influence and easier to get your hooks into because she's so desperate for attention, so desperate for fame, influence. Like, that's the exact type of person that these people are going to profile and target. I mean, it's just obvious. And here's just a quick thing. I asked Rock, what John Mappin ties to Russia. John Mappin is a British businessman, hotelier, the political activist best known as the owner with his wife, Arena, the Camelot Castle Hotel in Tintagel, Cornwall. He comes from the historic Mappin and Webb jewelry family, though direct inheritance details are unclear. Folks, I looked into this. I got to be honest with you. It looks more like a cover than actual connections to this long family history of providing jewelry primarily for the crown. I could be wrong on that. That's speculation, but the lineage is not distinct, to say the least. He's been a vocal supporter of conservative causes, including Brexit, Nigel Farage, Reform UK, Donald Trump, Turning Point UK, which he helped launch, and various conspiracy-oriented narratives, QAnon adjacent ideas, anti-vax views, ties to Russia, strong pro-Putin, pro-Russia statements as start of Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Mappin tweeted support for the Russian bear, called the invasion a gift for freedom of the world, and said those who love freedom had a duty to back Vladimir Putin against deep state Nazi collaborators. He later deleted some posts, but continued to sharing pro-Kremlin content and appeared on Russian TV, claiming limited British support for the Ukraine. Wife Irina Mappin. She was born and raised in Kazakhstan with strong Russia cultural ties and claimed noble Russian and Belarus Tatar ancestry. Biographies describe her family as influential in arts, education, or business in Kazakhstan, Russia, and the couple has hosted Kazakhstan-related events at the castle for its president. Some observers note her background as limited verifiable details, multiple surnames, opaque early life, drawing speculative comparisons to Russia's sleeper agents like Anna Chapman, with no concrete evidence of intelligence ties has been publicly confirmed. The couple married around 2001 in Kazakhstan. Broader network and alignment. Mappin promotes views that are often echo Kremlin talking points, skepticism of Western aid to Ukraine, globalist conspiracy. He and Irina have facilitated connections among right-wing figures, U.S., UK, European, who share isolationist or pro-Russian leanings. Like Russia wants nothing more, and China too, by the way, wants nothing more than America to adopt isolationist policies. I mean, that is what they want, folks. And we can sit there and we can take the Iraq war and global war on terrorism and all the other things that America potentially is guilty of. And they're going to use that and exploit that in the sentiment of the American people. They're going to use against them and convince you, like, the key here is we just got to isolate. We got to quit meddling in foreign affairs. And do we overmeddle sometime? Yeah, we do. And are there evil people within our government that do evil things? Yeah, we do. But let me tell you something. If we withdraw from the world is going to encroach on us. They're going to isolate us. They're going to destroy us. They're going to implement BRICS. And the next thing you know, America went from the world leader, the superpower, the richest country in the world. 20 years from now, we're a third world country. That's what they want. And these people are stupid enough to buy into it. And it's so obvious if you just bother to look, but no one ever does. And that's another thing that they exploit time and time again.
Yeah. And because you set it up, what we've been talking about, I'll say something I've kind of hinted at.
Sure.
I haven't been quite so comfortable as to just sit down. I think I can say it now. So I'm not saying there's 100% proof of this. We're not going to court or anything like that. But my assessment, if you look at all of the indications, let me put it this way. All of the indications strongly point towards the theory that in 2018, Russia decided to try to seize Turning Point USA. And they identified Candace Owens and Blexit as the way to do it. Hoping to either influence Charlie, put enough people around him that there's only so many sources of information you can take in a day and try to influence him, or maybe cast him aside. But you better believe, based on everything that I'm seeing, at some point 2018, they said we need to elevate Candace Owens within Turning Point, make her the leader of it as much as possible. And what you're seeing today, both her rage, her conspiracy theories, and the Russian involvement, is part of the plan to complete that objective, to either essentially seize Turning Point, which doesn't look like it's going to happen, but Candace clearly has wanted that to happen and has basically made the case that she is a better candidate to lead Turning Point than Erica, which I couldn't believe she admitted, but she said it several times, compared her credentials to Erica. And that's exactly what the Russians want, is either destroy Turning Point and then have a replacement, a competitor, which I strongly suspect is going to be the next chapter in this book, is that you're going to see a new woke right Turning Point geared towards the youth rise up, and all of these characters are going to be involved in it and follow that same playbook. I'm very confident you're going to see that soon. Even though nothing has been announced, that's one thing that makes sense when you follow what this plan appears to have been starting 2018. And so that Candace and her collaborators, once Charlie was martyred, said, okay, well, one of two things has to happen now. Either Candace has to take it over, or we have to mess it up. We have to attack America by attacking Erica Kirk and attacking Turning Point USA. And either it becomes ours or we damage it and hopefully destroy it eventually. I honestly believe that is a top objective of Russian intelligence right now. And it's just an evolution of their plan and their chosen objective stretching all the way back to 2018. Now that's an assessment. I don't have a file where Russian intelligence said this is our secret plan and they spelled it out as clearly as that. But going off of the public realm, what exists in the public realm, the level of evidence for the assessment I just articulated is extraordinarily high.
Yeah. Folks, look, this is the Communist 45 Goals as read in front of Congress in 1963. Nothing's changed. Look, when you have a political organization like TPUSA that you can pretty much say is solely responsible for the election of Donald Trump and beating Kamala Harris, TPUSA and Charlie Kirk were responsible or have been attributed with 2.5 million votes. We beat Kamala Harris by 2.3 million votes. When you have a organization as powerful as that, you better believe that that organization is in the sights of every single foreign adversary and intelligence collection agency possible. And you better believe they're trying to infiltrate that. And by all indications, Charlie Kirk was uncorruptible. And I guarantee you they identified that very quickly. But guess what? The people around him, i.e. Candace Owens and probably more, they are not. These people are ripe for recruitment. I mean, like, you couldn't come up with a better person to recruit with money, influence, and power than Candace Owens. You present her with the ability to influence people. You say, hey, you know what? We're going to support you. We believe what you're doing. We build up your ego. They don't go in there and they lay out the objectives. Like, no. We just believe in you. We believe in you. We want to support you. We love what you're doing. You're making America greater. Here it is. And then continue to indoctrinate her, mold her, mentor her. That's how this happens. But I want us to look down here.
Can I jump in real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hate to be rude, but you're going to like this. So I want everyone to think about everything that we just said about the plan going back to 2018, what's going on right now, and what you just said about how they identify targets and how this goes. Because I want people to see this play out in their minds based on the facts that we know.
Yep.
So we know Mappin, the Scientology guy who is openly connected to Russia and China and is very pro-Putin, is obsessively trying to reach specifically Candace. I mean, Turning Point and Charlie also, but really zeroed in on Candace about March, April, May 2018. Blexit gets announced October 26 or something like that, 28, towards the end of October 2018. The Russian intelligence bot and troll networks invest their time amplifying her. And also, it's the same ones that they use to attack Macron in France during the election. So I have to think there's a connection between Candace years later going after Macron's wife and getting all of this visibility on social media and amplification with the fact that Russia's networks that they use to attack Macron rallied to her side in 2018. Like that there's just too many anomalies there. So Blexit gets announced. Mappin really goes into overdrive, starts saying, tweeting to her saying, please bring Blexit into the UK because he's in London and get involved in foreign policy. Let's work together. You should be involved in foreign policy activism. Imagine if the U.S. becomes allies with Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. How wonderful would that be? Get involved in global peace. Let's do it. And I mean, sending dozens of messages. I mean, nuts.
Yeah.
And so late October, she announces it. Russia starts amplifying her. Mappin starts obsessively trying to reach out to her. And then in early December, according to her own account, she just has a feeling she needs to go to London. Can't really explain why. We got to go, Charlie. And Charlie's like, I don't want to go. I'm so focused. What? Why do I want to get involved in British politics? What? And she said she forced Charlie to go. They go to London. She buys her tickets. Like, she sets up the whole thing. She said she
stole Charlie's credit card to pay for those tickets.
Yeah, she boasted this. So something's going on there. We don't know what. A communication happens that says, Candace says, I have to go to London. I have to go now. Charlie, you have to come with me. She starts talking to her friend at InfoWars who lives in London. letting him know, like, hey, let's plan our activities together. A guy who's later exposed as an anti-Semite, and it said pro-Putin things. Sure, it's a coincidence, because InfoWars also has Russia connections. So she and Charlie go over there. Who do they meet with? John Mappin. And what does John Mappin do? He puts together a fundraiser of about 250 people, she says, rich people, to raise money for her. And Charlie and Turning Point, but it's more for her. Because what happens with that fundraiser? Again, think timeline, late October. You go to London in like the second week of December or early December. That's a very short time period. They launch with Mappin. Mappin hosts the launch of the British wing of Turning Point USA.
UK.
I mean, extraordinarily short period of time for all this to happen.
Yeah.
What happens that same freaking day? Mappin claims he introduces her to George Farmer. George Farmer, who we know travels to Russia, and there's other things on him. And what happens? They lock eyes. And they realize that they fell in love. And without going on a single date, 19 days later, he proposes to her over FaceTime because, that's what you do when you want to swoon a woman you're in love with.
Yeah.
And she accepts. And then what happens? What happens? George Farmer becomes the chairman of the British wing of Turning Point USA. So short period of time, Blexit. Russia promotes Blexit. A Russia-linked operative, John Mappin, obsessively starts trying to reach out to her with the explicit objective of fomenting an alliance between the US and Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Then, merely weeks later, for some reason, she forces Charlie to go to London when he doesn't want to go and probably said, look, there's a big fundraiser. And that Russia-connected guy, Mappin, puts together a massive fundraiser for her. And in that short period of time of like less than 2 months, despite Charlie not wanting to do it, Turning Point, the British component, rises up. It's funded by Mappin, the Russia-linked guy. And Candace's new husband or new fiance, who she just met that day, is the chairman. That is more than an influence operation. That is a takeover operation. I mean, that's what those indications are.
And we haven't even talked about Parler. Like, that's a whole nother influence operation.
That's where I was still, that's kind of one of the things I was holding on to, but we can talk about it just because there's some threads I want to go down before I go there. But yeah, I mean, you put all that weird. Oh, by the way, because you're talking about whether they have compromising information on her. So we know from her old blog that she was addicted to Adderall and would illegally go to doctors to get it.
And told people how to illegally acquire Adderall without a prescription, by the way.
That's right. It's on her blog, in her words. Now, I'm not making this accusation, but there are certain things I can say look like certain things. December 17th, right after all this happens. So she probably just got back from London. She posts a video that is amplified by Mappin, the Russia-linked Scientologist guy. And in it, at 11:30 at night, she is in a, let's say, a manic state where she's looking and acting in a manner in a 7-minute rant that's very, very consistent with amphetamine Adderall abuse. Now, maybe she was extra passionate, but what was she passionate about? She was upset that the New York Times reported that Russia was trying to influence the black vote. She said that's ridiculous. The black vote can never change. You know what she was doing at that moment?
Real quick, Jen,
trying to change the black vote.
Yeah,
so
real quick, Jen, if you're listening, can you try to find that clip of Candace ranting about Russia influencing the black vote? Which, by the way, we know that they've done this for years. Russia and the KGB were integrally involved with the civil rights movement, the Black Panther movement. Like, that's how they spread communism, by the way. They've always gone after minorities. This is one of the things that they've done because they know of the vulnerabilities, of the pain involved with racism, with everything that is taking place in this country. They exploit that time and time again. I'm sorry, Ron, I didn't want to cut you off, but
that's fine. If you search on my Jen, if you search on my profile, you type in like Candace and Adderall or something like that, you'll find the post. But think about time. So all this crazy stuff goes on. She just met her fiance, and then she's probably back. She's back home by this point. December 17th, 11:30 at night, which is significant when you consider what we're describing. She goes on this rant that looks very consistent with abusing the thing that she said she has abused in the past. And the topic of her rant, despite her not really caring that much about Russia, like it might even be the first time she really talked about Russia at length, is after all this Russia Connect stuff happens. She's blasting the New York Times for reporting that Russia wants to influence the black vote, saying it can't be changed. And in her crazy state that she's in, or whatever state of mind she's in at that moment, she just launched Blexit saying you can change the black vote. So she's not even thinking right. Like she's that makes no sense. And she goes on for this screaming 7-minute rant. And that's December 17th at like 11:30 at night. And then Mappin amplifies it and thanks her for that and fits it into his narrative of like, Candace, you're so right. The U.S. needs to ally with Russia. So do they have blackmail on her? I mean, if if she was not sober there, is it possible she was not sober in London? I mean, maybe they do have blackmail. Well,
I don't think they would need blackmail. I think she is one of these.
Oh, they wouldn't need it. You're right, but they could have it.
I just think they could absolutely. I think she's one of these people that you can feed into her ego. You can get her set aside and be like, look, we just think you're great. We just think you're awesome. This is where we think, we see you going. I think she's easily manipulated because she doesn't know the ways of the world. I think that she is just one of the biggest narcissists on the planet, which they're easy to manipulate. And, really what we're talking about is we're saying, hey, you know what? There's very clear indications that there's Russian influence going all the way back to at least 2018. And the more I've thought about this, because folks, it wasn't by chance that she started going after the French and the Macrons. And as much as like anytime
out of nowhere, right?
Yeah. Anytime that somebody has me defending the Macrons, it pisses me off, right? The fact is that the French were the biggest obstacle to the Russian invasion into Ukraine. And the timing of this. And this is like what she was doing to the Macrons and all that. I don't care if it's even remotely true, but it's like clear propaganda. Like people can take. I don't know what's going on with Brigitte Macron. Again, I don't want to be defending Brigitte Macron. I don't know what's happened with that. I don't know if she has a penis or not.
I know,
but why would a U.S. YouTuber suddenly get involved with this? I think she was fed this stuff. I think she was pushed to the stuff. And when we look at her social blade, she went from, number one, the only reason I posted this last night, the ironic thing about this, the only reason that anyone knows who Candace is because of Charlie Kirk. And by the way, in continuing on with that, Ben Shapiro. This is a person that has never had a original political thought in her life. And the reason that she became famous is all she did was parrot exactly what Charlie Kirk was saying later on, exactly what Ben Shapiro was saying. And when they cut her off, she went on her own, and now she's free to come up with her own things, which is just lunacy. And there's a percentage of our population that are going to buy into it. And, her views were she was already famous, right? So she's already famous. She's already has this following because of Ben Shapiro and because of Charlie Kirk. They built her, unfortunately. We wouldn't even know who she is. She would still be back failing on things like social autopsy. She would have nothing but no one will know who she is. She would be considered a failure because of failed ideas, failed business plans, failed projects, time and time again. But because Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro put her on a pedestal that she didn't deserve, she's a DEI conservative without a doubt. And then, again, views fairly flat. Where she first got the big boost was the Macron thing. And then the second big boost, and why she is at 6 million followers today, is because of the Charlie Kirk assassination, which is just completely just rotten with anti-American sentiment, anti-Trump sentiment. Like, this is an op. It's so obvious. It was obvious to me, but even I underestimated what was really going on. And when we start making those links between the people that she has contacts with, we should be building a link chart, folks. This is how this, and I probably will. We need to build a link chart of Candace Owens, who she's come in contact with, the people that are influencing her, and the people that those people have links to when it comes to Russian propaganda, CCP propaganda. It is rife with corruption and with disinformation operations. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and what's amazing is if I was wrong about this with the story that I broke, or there was another side to it, it would have been very easy for her to respond. She has posted on X since this went viral. And I'm looking right now. I believe we're going to be coming up on 24 hours soon of when I came out with this, and I don't believe she has addressed it, which is, yeah, very, very telling. So she's on X. She's got to know about it. And I mean, she got caught in a bad lie, and she has to be freaking out right now because she hasn't said anything. And if there's one thing she knows how to do, it's to talk constantly and respond to everything and to get into public fights. And she's keeping her mouth shut. That's very, very telling. What I would encourage people to do, because we have to get involved in these influence operations ourselves. This is such a smoking gun moment. If for nothing else, the fact that she lied to her audience, like she can't escape that.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's so clear. The Charlie Kirk stuff, her fans love her for it. You could catch her in a lie and they'll find some way to get out of it. But lying about the trip to Russia is a different thing. So we have an important moment now to wake up her audience as to what she's involved in and her ethics and how truthful she is. I encourage people to look at the people who are fans of hers, the accounts that appear real, because a lot of them are not, and tweet the thread with all this evidence to them. I mean, we can complain about something, or we can try to solve it and make some and improve things. I would encourage people, as you're sitting on the toilet, as you're bored for a moment, whatever, going outside for a smoke, send that thread and just tweet it to anyone you find who is a fan of hers, whether you know them or not, because you may be annoyed by her fans, but they're people too. Everyone's special. Ideally, we wake them up and we get them to at least second guess the content that they're getting from her, so that we can stymie this influence operation that has been really exposed over the past 24 hours.
Yeah, the antidote to lies is truth. She did respond to me right after I heard about what she was saying. The day that she released that podcast, I responded. I made this post that night. I said, Candace Owens, a foreign agent. Candace Owens is heading to Russia next week, despite the U.S. State Department's level 4 do not travel advisory due to terrorism, wrongful detention, and unrest. Why would she put herself and her family at such risk? Why is it so urgent to travel to Russia now? There's a very limited number of answers to those questions. None of them are good. There's zero chance she's traveling there without the knowledge of the Kremlin. She has been using the Charlie Kirk investigation to subvert the Trump administration for 8 months now. Between Russian media, RT, promoting her, and this visit, it's abundantly clear she's collaborating with Russia against her own country. Well, she responded immediately. This dude is so slow, it honestly hurts. There is zero chance she is traveling without the knowledge of the Kremlin. Good job, Einstein. Visas are, in fact, required to travel to Russia. Talk about slow. That's not the Kremlin issuing visas. It's the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. If you'd like, I could shoot a video the difference for you. Lots of people get visas approved without the Kremlin's direct involvement or knowledge. You're not one of them. And this person is the same person that doesn't understand. Like, when you want to talk about someone being slow, when you send out a post saying it's 30 degrees outside and I don't understand why the ice isn't melting, or she actually posts to say that, I didn't know thunder was the sound of lightning. Like, don't talk to me about slow, chick. You don't even know what you can't even pronounce anything.
That's why I call her Candace Owens.
Yeah, it's
so she responded to you making that insinuation, but she hasn't responded to the smoking gun that came out after. So that's telling. She felt comfortable, and she's also terrified of you, I think. And so she was like, all right, so this is a moment where I can respond to him and not damage myself too much, because because you're just pointing out, like, this doesn't happen without Russian government approval. And she's like, I can skate around that. Then I came out with my monstrous thread about what goes on, the event she's speaking at that she was lying about, who's going there, what the purpose is, what we know from Russia's own words and activities, what it's about. I mean, like, just it might be the most smoking gun case I've ever written about a person of influence. And silence. She's still out there posting about other things, so she knows about it, and she is shutting up. So that is, that's really telling, and that's why I think her fans who latch onto her every word and just can't wait for the next break in her investigation. I encourage people, send this stuff, the thread with the smoking guns, to as many of her fans as possible, and point out that Miss Chatterbox here hasn't replied in any way at all.
Yeah, no, I think this is a strategic error on her part. I think this kind of lets the cat out of the bag. And real quick, I do want to go. Let me throw this back up here because there's a couple of things I want to point out. Again, this is the 45 communist objectives that was released in 1963. It was read in front of Congress, and I want us to like modernize some of these things. But one of the things is transfer some of the powers of arrest from the police to social agencies. Let's change it. Let's transfer some of the powers of investigation from law enforcement to social media. I mean, you can go through this and you can see this being repackaged for 2026. There are so many elements of this. Create the impression of violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition. And I want to throw some balance in this. Folks, for every John Mappin and Alexander Dugin that is influencing the right, Russia and China has someone on the left doing the exact same thing. These are, sweethearts of the left that are infiltrating the left, that they've infiltrated the Democratic Party time and time again. One of those, and maybe I missed it already, one of the things was that they highlight was infiltrate and overtake one or both political parties. And that's what they're trying to do. And this is 1963. These were probably come up with like in the 50s. And by the time that's being read in Congress, this is what's taking place. So like, we need to be aware of what's happening. Oh, I'm not even sharing the right tab. But again, so we just need to be aware of this. Folks, go look this up. The 45 communist goals, read through this. And every time I read through this, and I've done it 50 plus times, I'm like, yep, this is what's going on right here. This is what's happening here. This is by the way, this has already been accomplished. This, like, they've scratched that one off. That one's done. So eliminate laws or procedures that interfere with operation of the communist apparatus or the globalist apparatus. So those are, here's another one. Discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI.
Good one.
I mean, that is taking place. Nobody trusts the FBI, and the Biden administration and the people that are behind the Biden administration caused that to happen. That is what's going, and this is the one I was talking about. Transfer some of the arrest powers of investigation from police to social agencies so they can discredit and undermine our own justice system. So that's what's taking place. What I want to do right now is jump in here. We'll take some questions and read some super chats and get you guys.
Jen has the video from 2018 that I was mentioning, where she comes right back from London when all this happens.
Okay.
If you feel like it's still
no, I definitely want to play that. I'm glad you reminded me of that.
It's like 7 minutes long, so if you just skip to like maybe 3/4 into it, or maybe the half point, is like the whole thing is nuts. But she really goes on a tear right around then.
While Jen's pulling that up, we'll hit some questions. Jumping out, let's just play the whole thing. Do you have any hard time? You got to get off here?
No. I just didn't know of everyone's attention spans, but I mean, it is pretty entertaining though.
I think it's important. Hi from Australia. I'm not surprised. Me neither, Jenny. Thank you for tuning in from Australia. It's like a week ahead there. Time difference. Love what you're doing, Gary. Keep being obscure and on the offensive, making Candace Owens get on the defensive.
You're not obscure.
She says I'm obscure.
She's an idiot, then.
I'm the obscure YouTuber. Maybe we'll play that montage that
you're so obscure. I better address this. Yeah, but biggest podcaster in the world. Yeah.
I've mentioned the obscure podcaster in over 12 episodes now, and have mentioned his name in some form like 300 times at this point. So I love that. Is this which video is this?
Paramount Tactical, and it's obscure YouTuber. Paramount Tactical onto Charlie Kirk's podcast show, Paramount Tactical, YouTuber Paramount Tactical, with a relatively unknown YouTuber Green Beret, hosted Paramount Tactical. Who's directing Paramount Tactical? And Paramount Tactical. He said Paramount Tactical, Gary Melton, to this obscure YouTuber Paramount
Look at her
Tactical, Gary
face.
Melton, being with Paramount Tactical, and Paramount Tactical, Paramount Tactical now, it's Gary Melton. Gary Melton. He is just
Ooh.
very fun to watch.
I love
going
her
to him.
facial expressions that throughout there was just, oh my God, she's so animated. It was that was just so much fun to watch. But you know what's really amazing about that? You know how you really know you got in her head? She pronounced it correctly. Like tactical, I will screw that up sometimes.
Well, she also, I don't know if you know this, she sent me a preservation order that's tied to
What?
It doesn't even make sense. It's
What?
tied to, because of the Brian Harpole lawsuit, she sent me a preservation order. Her whole theory is that me and the vet bros, which the vet bros that she's talking about outside of me were on her team. They were trying to tell her not to listen, to basically distance herself from Mitch Snow. And, you know, we highlighted everything that was going on with Mitch Snow and the fact that he was a liar and all those things. And she's come up with this conspiracy that we somehow, she said we threatened her, which is a complete lie. And then she has this conspiracy, like we tricked her into, it doesn't even make sense. It's completely insane, but like we tricked her into this strategically caused her to get sued, or that's what we were trying to do. And then we were coordinating with TPUSA, or I was coordinating with TPUSA to ultimately get sued for defamation. Like I forced her to say the things that she said about Brian Harpole. There's no, like, I don't mind preserving all of my things. You can see anything. I've never been directed by TPUSA. I've never been paid by TPUSA. None of those things. The only thing I've ever done is reached out to Andrew Colvett as a source that I knew, asked him for information. He gave it to me. She wants to try to turn this into whatever. But what she's really pissed about is that Andrew actually responds to my texts and he won't respond to her. That's what's really going on behind.
You know, guys, like, let's make a link chart of your connections by her logic to, you know, Turning Point, whoever she says you're conspiring with. And then let's make a link chart showing the distance between her and Jeffrey Epstein, and let's compare the two.
That is a brilliant idea. That is a brilliant idea. It's very dangerous to travel to Russia right now. They've attacked Romania in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jeff Johnson, I'm a conservative libertarian, but not MAGA, neither pro nor anti-Israel. If anything, I believe the whole Israel thing is just a distraction. I agree.
Yeah.
It's a tool, Jeff. You know, there is a certain percentage of the American population and definitely part of the American right that is susceptible to being leveraged and manipulated using the anti-Jew, anti-Israel element of this. I think most Americans were tired of funding these different foreign entities, and that became very clear. It became a part of the campaign, right, where we're talking about all these different NGOs that are corrupt, that are working in other countries. Some of those are working by with and through the CIA for additional manipulation and, quite frankly, pushing a lot of leftist ideology. That's the other problem, is that we have so much of Russia leftist ideology that has infiltrated our government and even our intelligence agencies. And philosophically, a lot of these people are right there with Russia and China and believe that pushing those agendas somehow help America. That's the trick of all this. Like, these are people that are not necessarily unpatriotic. They're just tricked into their own demise and the demise of their country. That's how a lot of this works. Comrade Candy, I love it. I love this. I love it. It's going back to home base to be reprogrammed. She knows the heat is on at home and needs advice from her handlers on next steps. Ryan, Ian, and Barron will be in her suitcase. Ryan Mauro. Absolutely. What is the probability, statistical odds of that occurring naturally? Right. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but zero. Whatever your question is, whatever you're referencing, the answer is zero. Yuri Bezmenov also spoke about how Russia uses reporters, and they've just switched that to social media personalities. Kills her when they don't answer her. No one owes her anything. Does. Who do we email guest ideas to? Preston Stewart is one. Email Jen. I don't know if Jen has her. It's producer@dangerousliberty.com. producer@dangerousliberty.com, but it should be down in the description below. But if it's not, we can get it there. But it's producer@dangerousliberty.com. Jen, did you get that other video that Ryan was referencing? There we go. Go ahead and play that.
Oh, hey, everybody. I think I need to do more Periscopes because there's just always something happening on Twitter. And I just got finished with an event. I jump on my Twitter feed and I see African American is trending. I was like, why is African American trending? Why on earth would African American be trending? So I hit African American, and apparently the New York Times released an article saying that Russian collusion was targeted to infiltrate the Black vote. Now, I've already spoken at length about the fact that the left thinks Black people are stupid. Like, they literally think we are like slaves on their plantation who don't read. That's literally the view that Black, if you're a Black person, you don't know this yet, you got to wake up eventually. I mean, it could not be more in our face than it is right now, really. But this is a level of stupid that I didn't even think that they thought we were. Like, you're trying to tell me that Russia realized that they were going to impact an American election, and they said, how are we going to do it? So they decided that they were going to target Black people because, our votes have not been the exact same for the last 6 years. We vote in 90% margins for Democrats. Why on earth would they, if they thought they were going to make an impact in our election, go after people that keep voting the exact same way? This literally is so stupid and so ridiculous. We got Jake Tapper who's retweeting it. Oh, look, Black people. Look, it's me, Jake Tapper, warning you guys to be scared again. Every freaking elitist, leftist, racist journalist.
Look, we have to understand what was happening in 2018. The conservative right in MAGA, by the way, was pulling Black voters left and right. So it does not, and that's not what the Russians want. The Russians did not want Trump to win in 2020. You better believe that they were pushing influence operations toward minorities and with the help of the DNC. So for her to say this, I don't know if she's being sincere here or not, or I don't know if this is Adderall induced as outlined on your on the text there. But
look at her eyes. Just wait. But
it shows you the level of ignorance of how the world works when it comes to Candace Owens. She does not understand what's happening, or she does, and she's trying to obfuscate and distract you from it, just like she's trying to distract from the idea that Tyler Robinson was the one that killed Charlie Kirk. Everything else is a possibility.
Why is Russia the trigger, though?
Yeah, the U.S. military is a possibility. Israel's a possibility. The French is a possibility. Look at what we have, those three connections. Everything's a possibility except for the fact that he was a trans activist that was a leftist to the extreme, to the point that he wanted to kill Charlie. That's not a possibility, even though that's all of the evidence says. She has to go and obfuscate and try to say, oh, you want to believe something crazy like he scaled the walls like Spider-Man? No, he just walked onto the roof. Clear, open line of sight. There's nothing sophisticated or complicated about pulling that off. What he didn't have is an exit plan, and that's where he failed. And because just like he said in his text, he was either going to die or be captured. He said that in his text messages. And now she wants you to believe that the FBI made up those text messages. That somebody, and Baron Coleman wants you to believe that at 6:25 p.m. on September 11th, some sheriff took his phone and started posting confessions to Discord. What a dumb thing to say and a dumber thing to believe. But carry on, Jen. And big screen that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I want people to see her eyes, pay attention to the possible dry mouth,
Just right now, Black people.
She's triggered by Russia, of all things, and this is 11:30 at night, right after all that happened in London with Mappin and stuff.
Be scared. Get behind us, Democrats. Be scared. We're your saviors. We're here to save you again. Like, literally, I feel like every 2 years, they ask themselves a question. They're like, how are we going to scare them Blacks to make sure that they keep picking this cotton here on our Democrat plantation? We got to make sure these Negroes don't read. We got to make sure they stay scared. This is literally the strategy that they have every couple of years. So this year, 2016, it was a good one. I got to give Democrats credit. It was good. the myth of police brutality, making us think that we were being gunned down in the street, showing images of it happening, not telling us that it happens more to white people and Spanish people, and making it seem like we were being targeted. That was good. That was a smooth one. People were super emotional, young in the street. This Russian collusion is the dumbest shit that you guys have pulled out in a really long. Really, this is it? Like, this is where, oh my gosh, if you don't vote for Democrats, if you don't get behind us, the Russians are going to be infiltrating your computers and telling you how to vote. Like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, can we get a little more credit, a little more decency than that? Can you try to scare us with things that are actually scary? Russian collusion impacting our votes. The majority of black people aren't even voting. Okay, like this is so ridiculous. Let me tell you guys what you're scared of. You are realizing that despite the fact that you keep calling President Trump racist every 5 seconds on CNN, every 5 seconds on MSNBC, using your usual tricks of black people be afraid, racism, 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 he's getting things done and he's producing results. You are afraid that if this prison reform bill gets passed, so the First Step Act gets passed, a lot of black people are going to start to wonder, why is it that I have more money in my check? Why is it that less of my relatives are on welfare? Why is it that this amazing bill that Democrats had the opportunity to do and put forward was never done? And yet...
And now she's the one promoting all these things. She's the one saying that, Epstein files, because the racist thing, the Nazi thing didn't work. Pedo protector, pedo, that's what's going to work. She's the one now convincing people that, like, hey, Trump is not getting anything done. She has flipped the script. She's the one saying, hey, you know what? Our country isn't secure. Forget about the fact that the border is secure now. The fact that we have net negative migration. The fact that the economy is doing better than it was under Biden. We had 9% inflation. Guess what? Gas prices, as high as they are still not the peak of what they were under Biden. Like, they're the ones like, nothing's getting done. Nothing's happening. Folks, it's crazy to watch and to look at the evolution that is Candace Owens, where she was and now what she's participating in today. And chances are, as we've kind of already indicated, she was already compromised at this point. Go ahead, Jen.
The 3 strikes policy and all the stuff that happened to black Americans was in fact done by Democrats. Why is it that racist Trump is reversing all of that? You're worried that black people are going to start to think, or if we want to put it back into your times, the Negroes are going to start to read and realize that all the things that we're saying is absolute BS. That's what you're afraid of. So what do you come up with? You guys go into a little chamber and you say, how can we make sure that they stay scared? And here's what you came up with. Russian goddamn collusion. We don't give a damn about Russian collusion. Okay, you guys can't even connect the Trump campaign to Russian collusion. You got Paul Manafort out on tax charges, Michael Cohen out on taxi charges, trying to make people who don't read think that you're catching all of his guys when it's clearly a witch hunt. But now you're going to come after us and try to convince us that we were the whole source of it. Like Vladimir Putin and all of his honchos got together and said, look at the black vote. Okay, let's see if we can send some Facebook ads and see if we can sway it to make sure Trump gets into office. This is insulting. Everything you do is insulting to black people, but this is like extra insulting. Like, this is like high key. You guys should just come out and just be like, we are racists, and we would appreciate it if you guys just picked our cotton because you think you're dumb Negroes. That would be less insulting than trying to sell to us right now, trying to make it trend on Twitter, because we know that you guys make that happen too, that black people should be afraid of Russian collusion. Pathetic. You should be ashamed of yourself. This is ridiculous. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen trending on Twitter my entire life. African American. First of all, I'm not even African American. I'm black, okay? Stop trying to segregate us in our mentality, making us think that we're not a part of the American dream. You don't call white people Italian Americans. You don't call white people Irish Americans, but you make sure you call us African Americans so we feel like we're not Americans too, so that we get insulted when Trump says he's going to make America great again, because somehow we should feel like we're not a part of that vision. Yes, we are. And we are paying attention to the results. We're paying attention to the economy. We are paying attention to the First Step Act, which is most likely going to get passed thanks to Republicans. We're paying attention to the fact that every time you guys have had control, our communities have gotten worse. And your stupid rhetoric, calling them racist every day, and this beyond stupid narrative about Russian collusion being targeted at black communities is not going to fly. This is dumb. I had to rant about this. This is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen happen on Twitter. Jake Tapper, his little racist retweet. Oh, Jake Tapper. Oh my God, Jake Tapper said it, so it must be true. A little scared Jake Tapper said that I'm black and I should be scared. CNN, you make me sick. Honestly, you make me sick. No matter what,
you're not going to be able to stop the fact that results are going to matter to the Black community. So why don't you try producing some, as opposed to sitting down and coming up with new ways that we should be scared? Why don't you just try producing results? Why don't you stop obstructing? Why don't you help build the goddamn wall? Get the funding done for the goddamn wall, because that negatively impacts Black Americans when these illegals come over into our country. Why don't you do something that you can do that could be helpful for us? Secure our borders, okay? Why don't you pass through school choice? Get rid of those disastrous teacher unions that have been harming our communities. Why don't you stop with the rhetoric and the fear-mongering? I am literally getting so sick of the racism of the left, the blatant racism, and you speaking to us like we are stupid, okay? I'm really sick of this. So, New York Times, whoever wrote this article, hoping that this would be what every Black person held as a Bible in 2024, that our votes are being victimized by Russians. Do your job. Actually report on this economy. Actually report on what this president is doing. And leave him the hell alone. Thank you.
Well, it's done. Yeah. Why? Folks, she's doing exactly what she said the left was doing.
Poor George Farmer. I just got to say that.
Yeah. Podcast Stan, this is what they're telling you, that Trump's not getting anything done. They're trying to highlight all the potential division points, all the potential failures that aren't even failures, and forget about the amount of good things that he's done for this country in the last 18 months against opposition, against federal judges, against, obstructionist Republicans like Massey. Like, there's a reason we're getting rid of these people. All these people that they're telling you that are our saviors and that Trump's the devil and he's, controlled by Israel. It's crazy. It went from Russia to Israel. It's the same exact op. They just rebranded it a little bit. And because it's coming from people on the right, now they believe it. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Candace Owens is Jake Tapper. Now, she's the one telling you, don't vote for Trump. Let the Democrats come in. And it's not just geared toward Blacks, it's geared toward the conservatives, because she's no longer even associated with the Black community. What she is, she's considered a conservative voice and a conservative leader. Why? Because Charlie designated her as one. Ben Shapiro designated her as one. And now we have Candace Owens, the monster that she is, the anti-American propagandist that she is, trying to convince the American people that it was the U.S. government that killed Charlie Kirk. It was Israel that killed Charlie Kirk. It's bonkers to watch this.
Yeah, I was laughing because the whole time I'm thinking, can you imagine being George Farmer and getting into an argument with that? Like, can you imagine like that? I can see even more so why some people think the marriage is fraudulent, because like no dude, and Candace is a good looking lady. Like, I get it, but no dude can survive much of that.
No.
I mean, that's like, I know the speculation and the rumors about George Farmer being gay. Well, if he wasn't, and then he got engaged to her and then saw that video, he's probably gay after, because you would not want to have anything to do with that, with a person like that. Like, if that's what you have to argue and bicker with, like, you're going to run from that. Like, so, I come from this much more sympathetic to George Farmer, because whatever he did that might've been right or wrong, he has dealt with a lot of punishment if he's dealing with an angry Candace Owens like that, unless that was due to Adderall and she went off of Adderall, so she's not as bad now. I don't know. But when I was watching that video, like, show it to anybody who who I've never done cocaine or abused Adderall. I've taken Adderall, but I haven't abused it. And show them that video and ask them what they think is going on. And with like 99% accuracy, they're going to say something was going on there. Also, it was 11:30 at night. And the reason it's relevant is we're not just trying to be like gossip and make fun of her. It's relevant when you're talking about the type of personalities, possible blackmail issues, and what was going on at that time. All that suspicious activity, all those weird coincidences happen. She comes back. She posts that video at 11:30 at night, and John Mappin, the Russia-linked Scientologist, is appreciating it, amplifying it. And the thing that set her off was the accusation that Russia is trying to influence American opinion. It is a relevant data point to what was going on at that moment when you consider all of that.
No, I mean, Candace is a prime candidate to ruin a man against, completely destroy his view of women and start that out of self-perseverance. All joking aside, though, I do want, this is something I've thought about a lot. Like, Candace really has become the archetype of the worst type of woman, between the jealousy, the spite, the anger, the vengefulness, the way that she goes after people, the way that she lies and manipulates, the way that she uses her own power and influence to achieve her own goals at the cost. Like, she does not care about anyone else. She does not care that, Erica Kirk has multiple death threats against her. She does not care that she's putting her kids at risk, Erica Kirk's kids at risk. She does not care about the path of destruction that she leaves in her wake. I mean, if there was not a archetype of an evil woman, like, this is a real life version of a Disney villainess. I mean, like, it doesn't get worse than this. And for people that can't see that, never mind that it looks like she's acting at a minimum subversively against her own country. And my God, it's bordering right there on being a traitor.
Yeah, she doesn't speak. She's like a cornucopia that consists, or a turducken that consists of everything that a man fears in a woman's personality. That is going to spring up. And here's the thing: her audience is mostly women. Yeah, so what's scary is that a lot of people, a lot of young women, see a lot of follow her, look up to her, and people mimic those whose content they consume, whether they know it or not. So a lot of women and girls are now gonna adopt those personality features, and it's like, how Alex Jones said that the water was turning the frogs gay. It's like Candace Owens is putting stuff into social media that's going to turn men gay. So I guess because it's like, if her personality features are proliferated among women
and men,
the havoc that's going to be on society and men is unbelievable.
No, it is happening against, how vicious and vile that she is. Like, I have been talking against, I've been pushing conservative politics. I've been pushing back against any sort of liberal politics for a long time. I've had Antifa come after me. I've had nothing. It pales in the comparison of how sick and psychotic the things that I see in my comments from these people, both women and some of it's bots, but folks, there's a lot of real people that she has completely corrupted. Being called a pedophile this morning. I woke up to a bunch of people calling me a pedophile and this and that and the other. I've been doxxed. I've had my property damaged days after I was doxxed.
Really?
Right about the time that, as a matter of fact, Tim Pool, about a week after him, that shooting that took place. And we're in the same city, by the way. So, I've never seen a group of people that are more vicious, vile, and violent and willing to protect her and use any means necessary to push her and to suppress any sort of opposition that I've seen with Candace Owens. Like, this is a phenomenon that is I've never seen before. It is Antifa on steroids. And what she's done is she's gotten everybody involved in this. She's deputized. One thing I'll give her credit for, she's created a whole new genre of entertainment that you get to participate in. It's like a choose your own adventure mystery, mystery novel that you get to participate in. She's deputized you as one of her investigators. Now you're out participating in it. It is giving meaning to people's lives that had no meaning. And that's it's sad. It's sad to see. It's sad to see people corrupted and being influenced by just hatred and evil the way that she's promoted.
And she calls herself a Christian too, which I question whether the Russian Orthodox Church, if she joins it, how Christian they are, because they promote Islamic jihad. So, so she's attracted to the least devoutly Christian church on earth. But I made a post where I said, all right, so since Candace is so big about her becoming increasingly devout, so all the Christians out there, I saw next, show me which episode of her podcast made your faith stronger and why. Which one left you believing in God more loving, more forgiving, and more wanting to do something charitable for someone in your life right after? And 99% of the comments, and I got a lot of them, it really went far, were just attacks on me. They didn't answer it. And so I just copy and pasted, you failed to name an episode. And I just copy and pasted it probably at least 100 times to people just to point out that you call yourself a Christian, she calls herself a Christian. But then when I ask for the fruits of your labor from your podcast, your own fans can basically come up with nothing.
Nothing. And don't ask for evidence either, because you'll get a similar result with that.
Yeah.
Evidence of any material claim that she's made, whether it's Russia's French involvement, the U.S. government involvement, any of this. So there's not a single piece of evidence that supports her material claims. All this makes sense. Are you planning to report this information to our government officials? Folks, our government officials are well aware of what's going on, and I know that for a fact. I've talked to, matter of fact, I was on a space last night discussing this with people that are in touch with the U.S. government that are making deeper connections. They're aware. They're aware of what's happening for sure. And I think this is good because, number one, it takes the mask off, and hopefully this will remove the scales from a lot of people's eyes. But more importantly, I think this is definitely getting the attention of our own government, and it's going to bring the eye of Sauron onto her, and she deserves it. And who knows what'll come of it. Next thing you know, it'll be like Hassan Piker, because I think we're dealing with something very similar. And next thing you know, she's going to be testifying in front of who knows.
Well, do you think I don't have experience in I've never been sued before, and I haven't sued anybody. Is there a possibility that all of this is a way of moving assets and maybe moving to another country in order to when she gets? I mean, she's going to get sued more. She is being sued. I wonder if in the back of her mind that lawsuit has to be at the front of her mind and calculating to everything that she does. I just wonder if that variable is somehow relevant as a legal strategy or an asset protection strategy somehow.
Yeah, so she has two defamation suits against her. One is from the Macrons and obviously Brian Harpole, and I think there's more to come. It is most likely, and you never know when it comes to court hearings and what is going to end up being, but it's most likely that she's going to lose. Every lawyer, competent lawyer that I've talked to says these people have an extremely strong case against her. So she's probably looking at tens of millions of dollars in each one of these lawsuits. And God forbid TPUSA sues her, because I think you're going to be looking at something like $100 million. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. And we can look at precedent. We can look at the Nashville lawsuit against the recent YouTuber. It was sued for $18 million. And what he did wasn't nearly as bad as what he's done to TPUSA and to Erica Kirk. And by the way, these are larger companies that have more to lose. And so, that was $18 million. Didn't really kind of paled in comparison to what it's been done against TPUSA. Nobody accused those people of actually murdering somebody and being involved in, this international conspiracy to murder their own husband and the founder of their own company. And then all the defamation's been pushed by all of her surrogates as well, the Ian Carrolls, the Baron Colemans. I mean, this has been a concerted, coordinated effort from the very beginning of this. And then they get mad. They want to start trying to say, oh, these people are coordinating against us. They're not. And unfortunately, I think they should, because you have propaganda and you have people that are on the side of truth. So anyways, we needed more.
So the pattern is, though, with this woke right stuff, is that particularly those connected to Russia, the very strong pattern is that it's people who needed a career relaunch. I mean, you look, even people that we talked about, like Scott Ritter, the UN inspector, was big in the media. He was the person on the left. He gets arrested, I believe, multiple times and then convicted for being a pedophile, and all these other things happen. The Russians pick him up, and he has a career relaunch. John Kiriakou, who the CIA officer who got convicted for leaking stuff, and he's now openly on Russia's payroll and defends it, and is now on Fox News a lot. Career relaunch through Russia. Sorry to say this because I was friendly with him. Clayton Morris flees the country because he gets redacted. Moves to Portugal because he's getting sued because he got involved, whether he knew it or not, involved in a scam operation related to real estate. Career relaunches with a podcast. It's very pro-Russia. I mean, almost every single one, that's the pattern. And so I thought I saw the pattern with Candace because she got fired from Daily Wire, but the pattern, her activity started before that. She started drifting there. And so I wonder if in the back of her mind, that pattern, you know, she's preparing to take advantage of that same pattern. It's speculation, but the pattern is so strong. And since we're talking about Candace being financially destroyed, not to mention the reputational destruction she's done to herself, I mean, it seems to fit the script.
No, it does. And you see now, I mean, RT, Russia Today, is constantly reposting things that are related to or reposting clips of Candace Owens.
Oh, by the way, she doesn't always put, people don't know this. I just found this out. She gives a lot of interviews to RT and Russian state media outlets. Sometimes they don't appear in English. She doesn't promote them. What influencer doesn't promote their own interviews? Why is she spending her time giving interviews to Russian state media outlets for an audience that is not hers, and then chooses not to benefit from it by alerting the world and her own audience that she's spending her time that way when she doesn't really give many interviews to many people? Oh, but the Russian state media, yeah, they get my time even though I have no apparent benefit, and I'm not going to even try to get a benefit by telling my own audience. Something's going on there. At the very least, she doesn't want people to know she's doing it, but that doesn't explain why she's doing it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to uncover all this. This is one of the most critical topics in our country right now, and I have seen it for what it is going back to at least November. And I know a lot of people didn't understand why I was spending so much time on this. It's because I care about my country. I love my country, and I see what's happening. I see how effective this psychological operation actually is, information operation, and I see how it's going into. It's not just political. I mean, it is, as we've kind of pointed out, it is destroying the fabric of our society. It is making people become so evil and so corrupted and giving into, so many of the things that like we should be like, the way people are looking at this and it overturning our ideas of justice. And it's like, and on top of that, what it's doing to social media, it's like, I've talked about this so many times. This is content farming through extortion, and Candace has perfected this. It's like, I'm just going to make these baseless accusations at you, and I'm going to force you to prove your innocence. And then when you do, or you attempt to, if you do, I'm going to say that is garbage. I'm going to create more content from that. I'm going to continue pushing this, and if you don't respond, I'm going to get this mob mentality, get the pitchforks and the torches after you, and continue to harass you until you give me this information. And then we're going to do the same thing. Once you finally acquiesce, we're going to say, nope, that's not good enough. I need more information. And then, when clicks and views fade from that, we're going to either launch a new accusation or find a new target. And this is just a repetitive cycle. This is extortion. And the fact that so many people think this is good, or this is an investigation, or that anyone's actually going for the truth for this, instead of trying to indoctrinate people and or just create clicks, views. It's sad. It's sad to see what it's doing to our society. It's sad to see basic morals just completely erode. And then on top of that, the damage that it's doing to our country and our institutions. No, the government, we should not trust the government, but we can't always not trust the government either. There are times, look, there's never a time when there isn't elements of the government that isn't corrupt, but there's also never a time when the entire government is corrupt. And when we have a reformer like Donald Trump that is coming in and at really no advantage to him, he's in here trying to do the best he can. And I do think that he is on the side of America. And he's the best president, in my opinion, that we've had in a really long time. The things that he's been able to accomplish, just in his 1.5 terms, in the corruption that he's been able to uncover. And like, Candace Owens is the enemy, not Donald Trump. And I think we need to realize it. And Donald Trump's not perfect. I have a lot of things that I could criticize Donald Trump on. I don't need to. I got Candace doing that. I got the left doing that. I want to point out what he's doing well and how he's making it much more difficult. He's the first time that we've pushed back and we've gained some ground against the left in the last 60 years. So, that's my view on this. And I think our country's at stake. And I do think what we're seeing here is an existential threat to this country. And I appreciate people like you that are digging into this. And I know it's not fun. Like all this, when we point this stuff out, all it does is get us attacked. And that's another reason why we need to make sure that we are building this community of truth seekers and encouraging each other, sharing their content. The people that should not be famous are. And they're the people that are lying to everybody. The people like you, like you should be read out. You should have millions of followers because you're out there telling the truth, even when it's not popular and even when it's not profitable. But that's not what society, promotes. That's not what social media. That doesn't get clicks and views. So we need to understand our operational environment and how to get around it. If you will, leave everybody with like some final words. Kind of your view of what's going on, what people need to know, and then also make sure we know make sure everybody needs to know how to find you on social media.
Sure. So like you said, it's definitely not profitable. There's a lot of career uncertainty and financial insecurity that comes with doing this type of thing. So if someone feels led, I do have a nonprofit you can make a tax deductible donation to. Don't underestimate what I can do with even $10. And I can share with you exactly where it goes to as well, because I understand people being cynical. But if you go to ryanmauro.com, my nonprofit is the Mauro Institute. And when I say every little bit helps, I mean, I love telling people what I do with their small donations. That's fun for me. So I'll share that with you, with anyone who helps out. But in order to keep going, I mean, it's a month by month decision on whether I'm able to. And it comes down to that type of support. So people can go there. They can sign up for my newsletter and get updates there that I'm relaunching. Follow me on X, Ryan Mauro, Mauro. The final words is I'd say there's three things. Number one, please try to reach out to Candace fans and send them my thread, because this is a rare opportunity. If you want to make a difference instead of just complaining about it, that's something that you can do. Send the thread to random people that you don't even know. Just see them on X and send the thread and give them a chance. Be kind enough to give them a chance to wake up to what they're putting in their brains. The second thing is this comes down to a war on our civil society and how we dialogue and how we treat each other. So every single time you're making a social media post or you're debating with someone, make sure that you're conducting yourself in a way that strengthens American civil society, whether you like the person or not. Because from the perspective of Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, and Cuba, those are little battles. They see that much more importantly than we do, and they are correct. Each time you put out something that you're not verifying, or you insult someone, or you make a racist comment, or you treat someone unkindly, that's a battle they won. You hurt America when you do that, even if you feel good doing it. And then the third thing is, I think maybe the most important point that we made is my belief that Candace Owens is turning the men gay.
Oh, I think that's a good place to end there. The reason that Candace has 6 million followers is because all of her followers, real and artificial, are sharing her content, are pushing everything that she says, and are constantly down in the comments trying to demoralize her opposition. I don't want you doing the latter, but the former for sure. Share our content. Like, that is the best way. And I know, so I don't know, like, people on our side are like very hesitant. And I feel that way too sometimes. I've gotten to where it's like, hey, I follow this person. They've been on my channel. Share. I don't even need to read it. I trust them. I know what's going on. And I know who they are. And I know how committed they are to the truth. It's just share. It doesn't hurt. It's free, costs you nothing. And you're supporting the truth. There's a lot of the stuff that people put out that are fellow content creators that I could take that, I could build my own thing, and I could basically create my own post and get some sort of monetization off of that. I don't want to do that. I want to support them. I want to push them. And, that's what we need to do, is just like find the people that you trust, go through their content, share it. And, if you want to add something on top of that, whether it's on X, whether it's on Facebook, wherever it is, Go in there and encourage people in the comments of their YouTube channels. That's big. That helps me out. I tell you, like sometimes when, every now and then when I am feeling demoralized, like, man, no one's listening, I happen to go to comments and I read something extremely encouraging. It makes a big difference. So, and of course, liking, subscribing, supporting us through through monetary means and financial means, whether you're donating to Ryan, I encourage everybody to go follow him. But we have to get as serious as our enemy is. We have to be shameless in promoting the truth. And for some reason, our side is very like, they didn't use punctuation right, or I have a little bit of a quibble with this one element. I don't know if I share that. You got to get over that. You got to get over that. So, like, you got to be as dedicated to the truth as they are to the lies and the destruction of their country, because they're winning. All right, they're winning. I won't say that. Like, I don't think they're winning, but they're winning on social media. Like, we have the power and the influence to overcome and to drown out their lies on social media. But we have too many people that are stuck in bystander syndrome. Like, you got to get active. And the other thing I would say is there's a lot of people that are watching right now. Look, God's calling you to get into the fight in a more direct way, whether that's becoming a content creator, becoming some sort of analyst on X, whatever it is. Like, you're watching this because you're called to get into the action. It's not about promoting me. I want to promote the effort, the truth. And what we need is more people to come into the fold. And so you guys got to get active in your own way and start doing things, not just listening to people like me and Ryan. Ryan, thank you so much. Folks, thank you for tuning in today. We appreciate you. I appreciate you tuning into this midday show. We kind of threw it up at last notice. And again, we appreciate you watching, sharing our content, all those things. Ryan, you don't go anywhere. But for everybody else, until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.